Chapter 965 Nine-Headed Divine Spirit. Chapter 965 Nine-Headed Divine Spirit. Hanju saw that all the enemies below had fallen into fear and despair. He was satisfied. Such a battle was worth it after cultivating diligently for 10 million years. In any case, he was already prepared to fall out with the ninth chaos. He naturally had to show off and have a good time. Hanju raised his right hand, and the ultimate origin heaven seal condensed in front of him. The ultimate origin power, after fusing the 3,000 fiend celestial Dharma idols, poured into the ultimate origin heaven seal, causing it to instantly double in size. It was as if a tiny piece of paper had suddenly transformed into the sky and covered more than 900,000 great Tao sages. Hanju's gaze landed on the Holy Mother of Order. He smiled. After you lose, do you still have any methods left? The Holy Mother of Order was silent. At this moment, a figure passed through layers of space and arrived in the primordial void. He shouted anxiously, "No, you will completely walk into eternal damnation if you continue to kill." Hanju glanced over. It was the evil Heavenly Emperor. The evil Heavenly Emperor stared at him and said, "Stop here. There's still a way back. Hanju, the chaos is not as simple as you think. There are transcendent existences outside the chaos. Although I can't understand why you did those things, on account of our past relationship, I have to advise you not to insist." Hanju was touched. Even though his memories had been tampered with by the chaotic will, the evil Heavenly Emperor still remembered their past relationship. Hanju smiled. "Thank you for your kind intentions, Your Majesty. The will of the chaos is forcing me so much, so I naturally won't let it go. I, Hanju, have lived for 10 million years and am almost always cultivating in seclusion. At most, I have traveled in the heavenly Tao for a few hundred years. I have a clear conscience regarding the chaos. I have never harmed the chaos and have even helped it. Regardless of fate or destiny, I only do what I want to do. No one can determine my fate. The chaotic will can't. Even if there really are transcendent existences above the chaos, they can't." Hanju narrowed his eyes, and the evil Heavenly Emperor was moved out of the void. The Holy Mother of Order shouted, "Hurry up and attack." More than 900,000 great Tao sages used their strongest mystical powers together. A strong light rose and shone on Hanju. Hanju pressed down with his right hand. His expression was cold as he shouted in a low voice, "If you want to blame someone, blame the so-called chaotic will." The endless and terrifying ultimate origin heaven seal descended with the power to destroy the world. The two extremely powerful forces collided. Looking down from above the chaos, white light burst out from the vast chaos. It quickly expanded and transformed into a visible impact that swept through the chaos, causing the painting of the chaos to ripple. However, the white light quickly disappeared. Primordial void. The remnant aura floated like a cloud. It was not harmful or bloody, only the vast pressure did not dissipate for a long time. Hanju stood in the remnant aura, and his gaze landed on a figure below. Jiang Juesher. To be precise, it was the future Jiang Juesher. Hanju was expressionless but surprised. Could it be Jiang Juesher, the Tao creator? Even if Hanju knew, he had to pretend not to. The future Jiang Juesher sighed. "Master, you're really ruthless. You killed them all?" Hanju said, "I left your fellow disciples alive. Everyone he cared about was locked in the ultimate origin heaven seal. He would release them when he had the chance. Apart from that, the million great Tao sages were all destroyed. Even the Holy Mother of Order died." The future Jiang Juesher said, "Master, what do you plan to do next? Slaughter all living beings and make the chaos focus on you? All living beings can't do anything to me. Why should I kill them? In the end, they are only pitiful worms controlled by the chaotic will. I only eliminated existences who found trouble with me. If time can erase this forced hatred, I'm willing to write off this hatred and not interfere with them." Hanju meant it. The future Jiang Juesher said, "Master has indeed not changed. I really want to help you, but for now I don't exist. Those existences above the chaos don't know of my appearance. I'm only using my will to enter this era. Master, I only want to say one thing to you. No matter what, you have to survive. I can't save you, but please save yourself." With that, The future Jiang Juesher dissipated as if he was never there. Han Ju showed a frown. He knew that the future Jiang Juesher was the Tao creator he had deduced previously. In that future, he had died in this calamity. However, Jiang Juesher's words surprised him. The Tao creators were high and mighty. Currently there were only 5. If the Tao creator Jiang Juesher really appeared in the future, wouldn't there be 6? Wouldn't the Tao creator not sense that someone among all living beings would become a Tao creator? Previously, Han Ju thought that the future was fake. It was impossible for him to die. Now that the future Jiang Juesher had appeared, didn't that mean that the future really existed? Was the Tao creator Jiang Juesher here to persuade him to bow his head? Han Ju looked at the vast primordial void in a daze. At this moment he felt a powerful suction force. Han Ju swayed and opened his eyes again. He discovered that he had arrived in front of the chaotic divine authority. The chaotic divine authority fused with the 7 supreme rules was so holy. Han Ju was already prepared to face the chaotic will. Indeed, the chaotic divine authority began to change and gradually condensed into a figure. One could only see its figure, and not its true appearance. Han Ju, you destroyed the great Tao sages of the past, present and future. Now other than your disciples, there are no great Tao sages in the chaos. Are you still unwilling to give up? The voice of the chaotic will sounded. Its tone was indifferent, like the Holy Mother of Order without any emotions. Han Ju snorted. Shouldn't it be you who's supposed to stop? Chaotic will. I'm very curious about who you are and what you're plotting. The chaotic will was a rule, after all. Han Ju felt that the chaotic will might be a pretense, and there was someone else behind it. It was either the 9th chaos, or an ancient god who controlled all living beings with the will of the chaos. Han Ju felt that it should be the latter. If it was the 9th chaos, there was really no need to cause so much trouble. If an outsider invaded the primordial world and threatened it, Han Ju would directly crush him to death. He wouldn't have gone through so much trouble. The chaotic will was silent. Han Ju said, "Do you still remember Ancestor Tian Su? He's not dead. He's already been refined into a puppet by me. I'll teach him the Tao destruction mystical power. If the chaotic will still doesn't give up, I'll drag all living beings down with me. Since we can't live anyway, we'll die together." Impudent. The chaotic will shouted. Han Ju, you are a great Tao Supreme after all. How dare you say such childish words? Han Ju said with killing intent. Recover the memories of all living beings. Otherwise, everything will start from the beginning again. The chaotic will fell silent. The 9-headed divine spirit has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points, 6 stars 9-headed divine spirit? Han Ju's main body immediately checked the 9-headed divine spirit's portrait. It was black and as mysterious as the Tao ancestor. 9-headed divine spirit. Chaotic cultivation, chaotic will, ancient great Tao divine spirit, son of the 9th chaos. Because you threatened him with the chaos, he has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points 6 stars. Chapter 966 Life of All, Silent Chaos. Chapter 966 Life of All, Silent Chaos, son of the 9th chaos. No wonder he could control the chaotic will. Chaotic cultivation should mean that his cultivation level was on par with the chaos. With such a high level of hatred, it seemed that Han Ju had grasped his weakness. The 9-headed divine spirit was indeed afraid that all living beings would be slaughtered. Han Ju snorted in his mind. He wasn't in a hurry to continue speaking, and waited for the 9-headed divine spirit to answer. The 9-headed divine spirit, who had transformed into the chaotic will, had an unseen expression, but from the hatred, his expression was definitely not good. The 9-headed divine spirit asked in a low voice, Han Ju, it's not impossible to restore everyone's memories. However, you have to give in as well. Back then, the Tao ancestor promised to restrict the future of the heavenly Tao. Where's your promise? Han Ju smiled. My promise is not to use the Tao destruction mystical power. The 9-headed divine spirit was furious, but in order to maintain the coldness of the chaotic will, he did not show it. Han Ju continued to wait. After a long while, the 9-headed divine spirit suddenly emitted terrifying killing intent. It locked onto Han Ju and said, "Threatening the chaotic will won't end well for you. Tao destruction mystical power? That's only a heavenly Tao mystical power. How can it destroy all living beings in the chaos? The chaotic will suddenly attacked. Hanju felt endless darkness devouring him. Other than darkness, there was only the chaotic will in his eyes. In an instant, the senses of Hanju's clone lost their effect. It was as if the entire chaos had disappeared, leaving only him and the chaotic will. He did not wait for death. He took out the ultimate origin heaven seal, and was about to attack, when he suddenly looked up. He saw countless chains formed by lightning descending and quickly trapping him. His limbs were locked. The ultimate origin heaven seal collided with the chains. The chaotic will appeared in front of him. Their eyes met and Hanju saw a pair of extremely cold eyes that looked like snakes and humans. It made him feel as if he was in a cold cellar. Hanju broke free from the countless chains, and used the divine might great heaven palm. His right palm directly pierced through the chaotic will's body, as if nothing happened. At this moment, an indescribable force exploded from Hanju's body, instantly tearing his body apart. In the third Tao field, Hanju opened his eyes and asked in his mind, "Can the Tao creator infiltrate my third Tao field?" Although he was already prepared, he still had to ask. No, Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. The living beings in the third Tao field were all nurtured by him. There was no chaotic karma or providence at all. Xing Hongxian had already passed a round of absolute purification, and escaped the control of the chaotic karma and the chaotic will. Xing Wen'er's heavenly Tao karma was very shallow, and she was sealed in the primordial world by Hanju. She wasn't in the third Tao field. The current third Tao field had no karma with the chaos and the heavenly Tao. It couldn't be controlled by the chaotic will. The third Tao field's array formation could resist a creator lord. However, there was no creator lord in the current world. Hanju stood up. His eyes were cold as he quickly walked out of the third Tao field. He came in front of Ancestor Tian Su and said, "Leave your soul fragment behind. I'll send you out. After you leave, immediately use the life of all. I want all the living beings in the chaos to die." Ancestor Tian Su immediately split a soul fragment without another word. Hanju waved his sleeve and sent him out. Ancestor Tian Su appeared in the chaotic void, and immediately raised his hands to execute life of all. The dermic powers of a perfected great Tao Supreme quickly changed, turning into a golden impact that rushed out of his body. It was like a golden circle that quickly expanded and swept through the chaos. The nine-headed divine spirit appeared in front of him and said angrily, "How dare you?" With that, Ancestor Tian Su's body instantly exploded, leaving only a head. Ancestor Tian Su stared at the nine-headed divine spirit with a murderous gaze, and did not say a word. The nine-headed divine spirit was infuriated. The divine spirit tried to use the chaotic divine authority to stop life of all, but it couldn't stop the power at all. It was as if two completely different powers could not touch each other. Life of all was too fast. In less than a breath of time, it swept through all living beings in the entire chaos. All the living beings in the world were reduced to ashes. Every living thing was affected. It was not only the chaotic life forms. The living beings of the heavenly Tao were also reduced to ashes. The nine-headed divine spirit said angrily, "Crazy. Lunatic. Hanju. You will definitely be doomed for eternity." He raised his hand and crushed Ancestor Tian Su's head. Then he began to search for Hanju's aura. Soon he arrived at the universe of stars. All the newly born living beings in the universe of stars were also destroyed. As for Liu Bei, he had long been taken back by Hanju. As his clone, Liu Bei's memories were not changed by the chaotic will. The nine-headed divine spirit went to the third Tao field and attacked crazily, wanting to barge into it. Unfortunately, the third Tao field did not move no matter how he attacked. The unnamed disciples, Liu Bei, Ancestor Tian Su, and Xing Hongxian looked at the terrifying nine-headed divine spirit in panic. Hanju was very calm. "Husband, could he?" Xing Hongxian asked carefully. Hanju said, "I never do anything I'm not confident in. I'm just pretending to be crazy." He wanted to bet on a possibility. Ninth chaos. If he gambled wrongly, at most, he would hide in the third Tao field and cultivate until he reached the Creator Lord realm before going out. At that time, The 5 Tao creators wouldn't be enough for him to crush with one hand. The 9-headed divine spirit's mystical power rumbled extremely loudly and echoed throughout the entire chaos. However, there were no longer any living beings in the chaos. Even the great Tao divine spirits had perished. The ultimate god of punishment appeared and looked at the 9-headed divine spirit in shock. What is this? The ultimate god of punishment sighed. At this moment, he also felt a few powerful auras. They were not weaker than him and didn't participate in the battle against Hanju. Indeed, there are still so many mighty figures hidden in the chaos. The ultimate god of punishment thought to himself. He looked up and noticed that the 3,000 great Tao began to shrink. With the death of all living beings in the chaos, the power of rules began to weaken. The chaotic space began to collapse. It was returning to its initial state. The 9-headed divine spirit ignored the ultimate god of punishment and the worms lurking in the dark. He kept attacking and was extremely panicked. How is that possible? Why can't I barge in? Could it be the power of the Tao creator? Divine might heavenly sage anomaly. Could it be? The more the 9-headed divine spirit thought about it, the more panicked he became. Despair surged in his heart. He had gambled wrongly. He thought that Hanju was bluffing. He didn't expect him to really be able to destroy all living beings. The attack speed of the 9-headed divine spirit slowed down. Not long after, he stopped. He trembled and knelt in the void. From the point of view of the ultimate god of punishment, he seemed to be kneeling in front of Hanju's Tao field. The ultimate god of punishment was shocked. The chaotic divine authority had also bowed down to his master? However, that was not the case. At this moment, a figure appeared in front of the 9-headed divine spirit. Even a powerful existence like the ultimate god of punishment couldn't spy on it. The 9-headed divine spirit looked at the blurry figure in front of him and said with a trembling voice, "Father, I was wrong. 9th chaos." The 9th chaos woke up with the destruction of all living beings in the chaos. Without receiving a reply from his father, the 9-headed divine spirit became even more nervous and began to beg for mercy. Chapter 967 Hanju's Past. Chapter 967 Hanju's Past. Hanju couldn't see the 9th chaos either. But he guessed the truth upon looking at the 9-headed divine spirit's panicked appearance. The 9th chaos descended. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. He was gambling that the 9th chaos could uphold justice and revive all living beings. He had used the ultimate origin heaven seal to take in his disciples in the previous battle. However, there were 2 people outside who he had not grabbed in time. One was the evil heavenly emperor, and the other was Han Qing'er. The evil heavenly emperor had a Tao creator behind him, but Han Qing'er was a little pitiful. There was no choice. Hanju would compensate her in the future if she could be revived. Hanju felt that the 9th chaos definitely had a way to revive all living beings. Otherwise, he would have stopped them long ago. If the chaos was in trouble, how could they not know about such an extraordinary existence? The 9th chaos didn't stop Hanju, which meant that he didn't care at all. Hanju began to wait. The 9-headed divine spirit begged bitterly. When he said the word father, the ultimate god of punishment and the hidden mighty figures were shocked. Father? Wasn't this the chaotic will? How could it have a father? The ultimate god of punishment and the others were confused. Could it be that this fellow was not the chaotic will? Apart from the 9-headed divine spirit, no one could see the 9th chaos slowly raise his right hand and press down on the 9-headed divine spirit's head. The 9-headed divine spirit was so frightened that he didn't dare to move. Boom! The 9-headed divine spirit instantly exploded into dust. At the same time, the ultimate god of punishment seemed to sense something and was moved. He could feel life beginning to recover everywhere in the chaos. The dead living beings revived one after another. Especially in the Grand Primordium domain, the million great Tao sages had all been revived. Their auras gathered and were vast like smoke. In the 3rd Tao field, a notification appeared in front of Hanju. The 9th chaos sent you a dream. Do you accept? Hanju took a deep breath and asked in his mind, "Will I die if I accept the dream? 100 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" Continue? No. Hanju completely relaxed. This was the true Lord of Chaos. How could he be so petty? He silently chose to continue. Dream. Hanju opened his eyes and discovered that he was in a vast purple aura space. This was nebulous primordial chi, primordial chaos. Hanju turned around and saw a blurry black shadow looking at him from afar. Who are you? He asked in a low voice. Even if he knew, he had to pretend not to. A hoarse voice sounded. Hanju, you reincarnated from the primordial chaos. You floated between the primordial chaos and the chaos for countless years before finally finding the chaos and descending into the heavenly Tao. You were determined by the Tao ancestor to be an anomaly. Hanju was moved. He was really shocked. What did the ninth chaos mean? He was from the primordial chaos? Hanju had always thought that the earth in his previous life was in the earth immortal world, because its development was the same as the earth in his previous life. However, without him, his relatives would have long died. From the sound of it, could it be that the earth he came from was not this chaos? This chaos is called the ninth chaos. There were 8 more chaos before the ninth chaos. However, they were completely destroyed during the formation process and no longer exist. You came from the 8th chaos. The rules of the 8th chaos collapsed not long after you died. The power of the rules happened to protect your soul and helped you survive in the chaos. You've lived longer than the entire lifespan of the current chaos. The ninth chaos continued. Hanju was shocked. Could it be that the system was the power of rules of the 8th chaos? No wonder there were so many treasures. No wonder it had seen the primordial fiend celestial. The primordial chaos was still around when the 8th chaos was destroyed, so the primordial fiend celestial was naturally still around. Could this be the reason why the ninth chaos placed the 8th chaos reincarnation in the heavenly Tao and became Su Qi's disciple? He wanted him to receive the 8th chaos favor. Hanju would be indebted to the 8th chaos if he was really born in the 8th chaos. The more Hanju thought about it, the more complicated his emotions became. However, this was all in the past. What he cared about the most was the ninth chaos attitude towards this matter. No matter what happened, he would fall out with them and hide in the Tao field to cultivate if the ninth chaos wanted to target him. In this life, Hanju only lived for himself. He wouldn't give up his life to save the people around him if he could. What he did seemed crazy to the others, but he knew that it was a situation he was absolutely confident in. He was so selfish and never felt ashamed about it. He could have kindness, love, and feelings, but they couldn't occupy his Tao heart that wanted to survive. The ninth chaos continued. The so-called chaotic will is actually the identity of my son, the nine-headed divine spirit. Although I established the ninth chaos, I'm busy cultivating. I usually leave the ninth chaos to the nine-headed divine spirit to control. I've already deduced this matter. It's not your fault. You can only blame him for being narrow-minded and not allowing juniors to surpass him. He's even more afraid of anomalies outside the chaos. Not pursuing the matter, Hanju was delighted. However, Hanju, it's a fact that you destroyed all living beings. Today, I let the nine-headed divine spirit atone for his sins. His body and soul have already been destroyed. I left behind a trace of his will to be demoted to a mortal and to reincarnate into the chaos. If you destroy all living beings or threaten them again, your outcome will not be better than his. Ninth chaos voice was still so hoarse that one couldn't hear any emotions. But this time, it caused the surrounding nebulous primordial chi to surge violently. Hanju said, I didn't want to do this either. I was really desperate. With your cultivation level, you should be able to see everything I've done in my life. I've never provoked any existence. It's always others who want to kill me. I'll hide in the Tao field and see what you can do. The ninth chaos said, I indeed know. This is also the reason why I'm willing to not pursue the matter. All living beings in the chaos have already been revived by me, including all the living beings in the heavenly Tao. It's the same for your family. However, remember one thing. The heavenly Tao can develop, but it must always be under the great Tao divine spirit's control and cannot be stronger than the power of a region. I shouldn't tolerate the heavenly Tao, but on account of the difficulties for all living beings, if they want to pursue a higher cultivation level, they can abandon the heavenly Tao's providence like you. Hanju was secretly afraid. Was this the reason why the ninth chaos had never attacked him? Although he was helping the heavenly Tao, he didn't have its karma and providence on him. He had been too naive in the past. Hanju said, "Thank you for your understanding, Senior. May I ask what your Tao title is?" The ninth chaos said, "The ninth chaos is me. I am the ninth chaos." "You are the chaotic will?" Hanju pretended to be shocked. The ninth chaos said, "There's no need to pretend. Actually, you've long spied on the existence above the chaos. I wouldn't have let you grow if not for the fact that you're from the eighth chaos." With that, the dream shattered. Ninth chaos voice sounded in Hanju's ears. "Cultivate well. I won't interfere in the matters of the chaos. I look forward to the day you surpass the chaos." Hanju opened his eyes and frowned. The ninth chaos hoped that he would become a Tao creator? Why was that? He suddenly couldn't understand the ninth chaos. However, on second thought, if the ninth chaos did not want any Tao creators to appear, there would only be one, not five. Chapter 968 Calamity's End, Holy Mother's Confession. Chapter 968 Calamity's End, Holy Mother's Confession. How's the situation? Xing Hongxian came up and asked nervously. She had already learned from Ancestor Tian Su how terrifying life of all was. The entire chaos had been destroyed. She couldn't imagine what kind of existence she would have to face if the matter couldn't be solved. Hanju said, "It's already over. The chaotic will should have been removed now. The living beings destroyed have already been revived by the Lord of Chaos." But what? Xing Hongxian, Liu Bei, and Ancestor Tian Su became nervous. Hanju sighed. It's just a pity that Ancestor Tian Su's cultivation realm can't be recovered. The three of them were caught between laughter and tears. Ancestor Tian Su said, "It's fine. I'll just cultivate again. To be honest, I don't dare to bear such huge karma. Destroy all living beings in the chaos. This was definitely the craziest thing he had ever done." Hanju smiled. "Let's rest. I have to check the heavenly Tao too." With that he vanished. At the same time, in the Grand Primordium domain, the million great Tao sages looked at each other. The atmosphere was strange. The ultimate origin heaven seal suddenly appeared and released Han Huang and the others. Their appearance did not surprise the other mighty figures, who thought that they had just revived. The Holy Mother of Order said, "I've already obtained the comprehension of the true chaotic will. The previous chaotic will was a demon called the nine-headed divine spirit. He used the chaotic authority to tamper with the memories of all living beings, causing them to hate the divine might heavenly sage, including us. The nine-headed divine spirit has already been expelled by the chaotic authority. We have also been revived by it. This calamity is over. We no longer have to target the divine might heavenly sage. The memories of all living beings have been recovered. Everyone from the future, we thank you here." The Holy Mother of Order bowed. The other great Tao sages and great Tao divine spirits bowed. Nearly 1,000,000 mighty figures looked at each other, not knowing what to say. At this moment, the chaotic divine authority appeared above and sucked away the 1,000,000 future experts. Han Huang looked at Han Yao and frowned. Han Yao turned around and smiled. "Ancestor Han Huang, I forgot to tell you. I'm still half your disciple. You have to take good care of me in the future." Han Huang was stunned. Jiang Juesher looked around and discovered that his future self had disappeared. He had not seen his future self when he revived. Soon, the 1,000,000 future experts were all sent back by the chaotic divine authority. The Grand Primordium domain fell silent. The great Tao divine spirits and great Tao sages present looked at each other. Although the matter was over, how should they face the divine might heavenly sage? The memories of the previous battle were not erased. The divine might heavenly sage suppressed 1,000,000 great Tao sages and thousands of great Tao supremes. The ultimate god of punishment suddenly appeared beside the Holy Mother of Order. The Holy Mother of Order bowed slightly. The ultimate god of punishment waved his hand, and the nearby mighty figures left. Han Huang and the others were the same. Soon, only the two of them were left. The ultimate god of punishment asked, "You knew the truth long ago?" The Holy Mother of Order said, "If I didn't create such an opportunity to overturn the chaos, or summon so many mighty figures, The great Tao divine spirits won't be convinced even if the matter calms down. Now that the divine might heavenly sage has already proved his strength, no matter how dissatisfied the great Tao divine spirits are, they can only accept it. This is the best outcome. Then, have you considered what the divine might heavenly sage thinks of you? The ultimate god of punishment asked with a faint smile. The Holy Mother of Order said, he will understand. Heavenly Tao, outside the 33rd heaven, in the Universal Hall. The sages gathered. It's like a dream. You feel the same? Indeed. What happened in the past few decades? I dreamed that the heavenly Tao was destroyed. Isn't it fine? It's probably a mighty figure who wants to harm us. Fortunately, the heavenly Tao has the divine might heavenly sage. The sages discussed and their gazes landed on Hanju, who was beside heavenly venerate Xian. Their eyes were filled with admiration. Hanju was looking at the notification. It was all favorability notifications. It was too much for him to take in. Heavenly venerate Xian smiled. Since the heavenly sage has already said that it's fine, let's talk about the chaotic heavenly roads. It has been destroyed many times over the years. We have to restore them. The sages were furious at the mention of this. More than half of the chaotic heavenly roads have been destroyed. How could they not be angry? Most importantly, they didn't know who to settle scores with. Hanju didn't interrupt. The clone in the 100-peak immortal river was interacting with Li Xianao and stabilizing order. In short, the calamity caused by the chaotic will was over. All living beings did not remember what had happened, but the great Tao sages remembered it clearly and could be considered to have gained something. From now on, no one in the chaos should dare to find trouble with Hanju. The only problem was the heavenly Tao's development. Hanju felt that he could give the 9th chaos some face. He could let the heavenly Tao develop to the strength of a region at most, and not any stronger. The 9th chaos could have chosen not to revive all living beings in the heavenly Tao, but he had already displayed his extraordinary bearing. Hanju naturally couldn't pester him endlessly. It wouldn't be of any practical help to him even if the heavenly Tao developed well. Instead, it would benefit Pangu and the Tao ancestor. Hanju could now look at his primordial world. Several hours later, Hanju left the Universal Hall and returned to his Taoist temple. He decided to cultivate for 100,000 years first and wait for this matter to completely end. Just as he was meditating, a notification appeared in front of him. The Holy Mother of Order sent you a dream. Do you accept? Can't sit still? Hanju sneered. He wanted to refuse, but he decided to see what this fellow had to say after thinking about it. The Holy Mother of Order could summon the chaotic divine authority. This was stronger than the ultimate god of punishment. She could be considered the most powerful among the divine spirits. It was very likely that she was the 9-headed divine spirit's lackey. The dream was the Holy Mother of Order's domain. It was vast and boundless. Hanju stood in the air and looked at the Holy Mother of Order. The Holy Mother of Order said, "Heavenly Sage, congratulations on passing this calamity." Hanju smiled. The Holy Mother of Order said, "Does the Heavenly Sage hate me for attracting so many powerful enemies? If not for dragging the future of the chaos over, that unknown existence would not have acted. You can't defeat the chaotic will. Even if you can stay here, your disciples, children, and the heavenly Tao will all die. If only the living beings of the chaos were destroyed, that existence would not have punished the chaotic will. You and the chaotic will would still be mortal enemies. You would still be in danger. Now that the future of the chaos was affected, so the chaotic will naturally won't survive." Hanju raised his eyebrows. That made sense. The Holy Mother of Order said, "I know that the ultimate god of punishment is already your subordinate. If I become your enemy, I wouldn't have come to persuade you before the battle started. I would have led the attack. Wouldn't I be taking revenge on myself?" Hanju said angrily, "You know that too." The Holy Mother of Order said, "By doing this, at least the chaotic will won't blame me. It can also force him to have no choice but to take action." Hanju didn't reply. This grudge wouldn't be resolved if she didn't show some sincerity. Chapter 969 First Attempt at Creation Heavens Chosen. Chapter 969 First Attempt at Creation Heavens, chosen. The Holy Mother of Order said a lot, but it was nothing more than the analysis of the situation. Hanju waited for her to finish before saying slowly, "Since the Holy Mother wants to resolve this karma, come to my Tao field. You should know where it is. Our Tao discussion can also prove your attitude to many mighty figures." The Holy Mother of Order was silent. Hanju was not in a hurry. The opportunity was in front of her. If she rejected, Hanju would also forcefully invite her to be a guest. After a long while, the Holy Mother of Order said, "All right." Hanju smiled and nodded before breaking through the dream. He opened his eyes and thought for a moment. He would first take everyone in the third Tao field into the primordial world and release them after subduing the Holy Mother of Order. After all, she was also a great Tao Supreme and could easily injure the others in the Tao field. The Holy Mother of Order arrived quickly. She didn't hide her aura. In the chaos, she was like a bright lamp moving through the darkness. She came to the third Tao field and bowed slightly. Hanju used the derivation function. After confirming that there was no danger, he moved the Holy Mother of Order in and directly used the Great Change Sealing Palm to forcefully seal her. Then he released the disciples Liu Bei, Xing Hongxian, and Qingwaner into the primordial world. He then teleported to the main Tao field and threw the Holy Mother of Order into the primordial heavenly prison. The Holy Mother of Order sat beside Hanju and stared at him calmly, not panicking at all. Hanju couldn't be bothered to say anything. He began to cultivate. Time passed quickly. 100,000 years passed quickly. The Holy Mother of Order had yet to be enslaved, but she had already lost consciousness. She sat in meditation like a statue. Hanju opened his eyes. He was in a good mood. All these years of cultivation caused his cultivation level to steadily increase. Although the Tao Creator realm was still far away, it was fine as long as he became stronger. After dealing with the nine-headed divine spirit, there should be no more trouble in the chaos for a long time. The current Hanju stood at the peak of the chaos and had overwhelming power. No one dared to find trouble with him unless those ancient mighty figures, who had been suppressed for a long time, had already been abandoned by the era and couldn't see the situation clearly. Even so, he would not let his guard down. For example, the ninth chaos directly suppressed the nine-headed divine spirit and waved his hand to revive all living beings. Hanju was an ant in front of him. There were 5 Tao creators. Hanju looked at the situation of himself with the ninth chaos and seriously suspected that the other 4 Tao creators might also have their own world. It was as vast as the chaos and was created with the boundary evidence, so they rarely interfered with the chaos. Of course, he was only guessing. In any case, the chaos was definitely the strongest world. After all, the ninth chaos was the strongest. The value of the ninth chaos was 100 quadrillion years, while the Tao Creator was 1 quadrillion years. The difference was obvious. Hanju started to check his emails. Your good friend Jiang Yi was attacked by an inauspicious evil. X60982321. Your disciple Tao Sovereign was attacked by an inauspicious evil. X73110720. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor has received guidance from a transcendent existence. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Huang Zuantian has entered the divine authority domain. His providence has increased. Your son Han Huang was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your good friend Azure Heaven Mystic has entered the chaotic crack. Your descendant Han Yu has comprehended the true meaning of the heavenly Tao and learned a great mystical power. Your son Han Tuo received guidance from your good friend, the ultimate god of punishment. His cultivation has increased greatly. Peace was really good. Hanju looked at his friends in the emails, who had obtained different opportunities, and felt relieved. What was so good about fighting? Hanju began to look forward to the chaotic assembly. This event encountered many twists and turns. He had to open it. Hanju continued cultivating after reading the emails. Tens of thousands of years later, the Holy Mother of Order was successfully enslaved and developed a favorable impression of him. After instructing the Holy Mother of Order and letting her out, Hanju continued cultivating. No matter what, the cycle of seclusion could not change. Just like that, Hanju only ended his cultivation after another 100,000 years. He sent a dream to the evil heavenly emperor. In the dream, Hanju smiled and said, "Your Majesty, Huang'er is already old enough. Do you want to arrange a marriage for him? It's also a good thing if you and I become in-laws." The evil heavenly emperor was dissolute and had countless sons. He definitely had a daughter. Evil heavenly emperor immediately smiled. "I also have the same intention. Then, I will definitely choose the woman with the best appearance to marry Huang'er. It's just that Huang'er doesn't like women. The only woman close to him is Qing'er. Tell him that I need him to spread my bloodline." "Alright, ha ha ha." The evil heavenly emperor laughed. He coveted Han Huang's bloodline. It would be a good thing if he could spread his bloodline in the heavenly court. Hanju brought Xian Qingjun to the third Dao field after the dream ended. She was finally pregnant after the two of them struggled for a period of time. Hanju clearly felt the pressure of some rule, causing his bloodline to be unable to completely enter Xian Qingjun's body. Furthermore, she couldn't withstand it. The potential of this fetus was at most on par with Han Tua. Hanju established a new Taoist temple for Xian Qingjun beside his Taoist temple. Then, he sent a dream to Hanyu after she settled down. He hoped that Hanyu could marry the woman beside him as soon as possible. These words made Hanyu very embarrassed, but he didn't dare to refuse. Hanju smiled in satisfaction after doing all of this. He hadn't used the creation heavens chosen yet. Actually, Hanju could also use it directly. This way, his current children might obtain a great creation. However, this was not a good thing. What would Han Huang think if Han Tua or Han Qing'er obtained it? What would happen to Han Huang if he obtained it? He would definitely overturn the world in the future. Hanju remembered clearly the future he created for Han Huang. This kid might face a calamity. He had to control him well. In addition, Hanju also hoped that his bloodline could be passed down generation after generation. It couldn't be that the higher the seniority, the stronger the talent. That would only lead to ruin. Moreover, the creation heavens chosen had been used more than once. If someone was lucky and was chosen, that would be fate. A year later, Xian Qingjun's child was born. It was not a son but a daughter. Hanju named her Han Ling, just like how he treated Han Qing'er. Hanju took the time to accompany her as she grew up. Han Ling wasn't as lively as Han Qing'er. She was more reserved and rarely spoke. Xian Qingjun continued to cultivate after Han Ling grew up. Ignoring her, Hanju let his daughter stay in his Taoist temple and cultivate beside him. Hanju could sense that Xian Qingjun didn't like Han Ling that much. She seemed to want a son more. Hanju began to use the creation heavens, chosen upon seeing that his second daughter had already entered a cultivation state. Activate the creation heavens chosen. A random great creation will appear among your children. Your daughter Han Ling has awakened an innate great creation primordial emperor star. Primordial emperor star. Born as an emperor and unaffected by rules. The emperor chi quills the soul. The comprehension is unparalleled. Can use the power of creation to cultivate the emperor army. As soon as these three lines of words appeared, Han Ling, who was beside Hanju, suddenly changed. Strange purple chi surrounded her body. At the same time, above the chaos, the 3,000 great Tao trembled, as if welcoming the arrival of a supreme existence. Chapter 970 10,000 Emperor Soldiers. Chapter 970 10,000 Emperor Soldiers. Primordial Emperor Star? Hanju's eyelids twitched. It looked a little impressive. He carefully checked Han Ling's introduction. The primordial emperor star was only a great creation, and not a bloodline. It was one of the primordial fates. From the looks of it, although there was only one primordial fiend celestial during the primordial era, there were also primordial life forms. Otherwise, the 9 chaos would not have been born. Hanju sighed as he stared at his daughter. He didn't expect a woman to obtain the great creation of an emperor. Because Han Ling was restrained and didn't like to talk, Hanju doted on her. Now that he looked back, he did the right thing. Han Ling might have embarked on an evil path after obtaining the great creation if he had ignored her. As an emperor, it was easy to be stubborn. The spirit chi in the third Tao field began to surge into Han Ling's body. Dressed in white, Han Ling had an otherworldly temperament. She had inherited Hanju's looks and was devastatingly beautiful. Her expression was cold, and a purple aura surrounded her. Gradually, a purple pattern condensed between her eyebrows. Han Ling finally woke up after several years. Her cultivation level quickly reached the golden immortal realm in these few years. She was only a step away from the emperor realm. She opened her eyes and felt the extraordinariness in her body. She was pleasantly surprised and also a little nervous. She looked at her father and asked softly, "Father, there seems to be something wrong with me." Hanju didn't even open his eyes. "That's your own opportunity. Feel it well and do not worry. From now on, you will enter seclusion with me. Every time you enter seclusion, it will be for 100,000 years. 100,000 years. Han Ling was moved, but she didn't refuse and silently accepted this arrangement. Above the chaos, great Tao divine spirits gathered. The Holy Mother of Order, the ultimate god of punishment, and the 5 great divine punishers also came. After several years, the 3,000 great Tao finally calmed down. The ultimate god of punishment looked at the Holy Mother of Order and asked, "What did the Holy Mother deduce?" The Holy Mother of Order said, "An innate great creation has descended. I can't guess who it is or where it is." The other great Tao divine spirits discussed it. Over the years, not only have there been more and more great Tao sages, but also more and more geniuses have appeared. Looks like the divine might heavenly sage is not the only one. He has begun a new era. We have to check our domains carefully. We have to grasp such a great opportunity well. That's right. Unfortunately, this child will miss the first chaotic assembly. Han Tuo and Etian were also discussing this. Etian sighed. There are more and more demons. Your brother has an opponent. Han Huang was already the #1 prodigy of the chaos. He was born as freedom. Now that he was a great Tao sage, his cultivation talent was unparalleled. Even the divine might heavenly sage was inferior. Han Tuo smiled. This is a good thing. Only with competition can we not slack off. Etian also smiled. How about that woman last time? Did she really not catch your eye? The other 3 divine punishers also revealed strange smiles. Han Tuo sighed. I'm not in the mood to seek love. Don't mention this anymore. As for my father, I'll just apologize to him. On the other side, the ultimate god of punishment said a few words and disappeared. The Holy Mother of Order left. After the 3,000 great Tao regained their calm, the great Tao divine spirits naturally had no reason to stay. However, the news of this matter also spread in the chaos. Countless domain mighty figures knew that a monstrous prodigy, not inferior to Han Huang, would appear in the chaos. The news also reached the heavenly court. The evil heavenly emperor found Han Huang and told him about this. Han Huang was disdainful. No one can compare to me. I want to see how strong he is. I'll personally spar with him when he grows up. Han Huang, who was only a step away from the great Tao Supreme Realm, had a stronger aura than the evil heavenly emperor. He was no longer the rash kid from before. The evil heavenly emperor smiled. He knew Han Huang's personality and could only mourn for that mysterious prodigy. Your father asked to arrange a marriage for you. How about my subordinate, Princess Jiulong? She's my bloodline and has a great Tao sage as her master. Her talent is not bad. She's not far from attaining the primordial chaos realm. In terms of looks, she's considered top-notch among my princesses. The evil heavenly emperor smiled. Han Huang frowned. The evil heavenly emperor said, "You're already old enough. You should help spread the Han family bloodline. These are your father's words. After all, your brother lost his wife back then and won't marry again. If you refuse, the Han family will have no descendants." Han Huang shook his head. "Thank you for your kind intentions, Your Majesty. Princess Jiulong is indeed very good. But I don't need a woman. I don't want a weakness." His eyes were firm. The evil heavenly emperor said helplessly, "Even if you don't want a weakness, you have to have a woman, right? This is human nature." Han Huang frowned. "No, Your Majesty. To be honest, women are not attractive in my eyes. Other than my family, all living beings are very low level in my eyes. It's already very uncomfortable to chat with them, let alone do that." The evil heavenly emperor was stunned. Han Huang stood up and twisted his body. He smiled and said, "Your Majesty, I'll help you take down the world that the heavenly court has recently been stuck in. Just you wait." Chapter 971 Number 1 Prodigy of the Chaos. Chapter 971 Number 1 Prodigy of the Chaos. Really? Let's wait until you see the outside world. Hanju shook his head and laughed, not taking it seriously. He waved his sleeve and brought Han Ling to the main Dao field. He let him take a walk in the 100-peak Immortal River. Han Ling returned in less than 2 hours and said that there was nothing to see there. Hanju then brought her to the third Dao field to meet the personal disciples. Li Yao and Dao Comprehension Sword were very surprised to see Han Ling. They pulled her and showed her around. Hanju informed the other Fiend Celestials, and they arrived in front of the Taoist temple in less than 3 breaths of time. Hanju led his daughter out of the Taoist temple and introduced her to the disciples. "She's Master's 4th daughter, right? Hello, junior sister Ling, what should I call you? Uncle Master or Aunt Master? Ha ha ha, she's really good looking. As expected of Master's daughter. How old is she? Why is she already a sage? Think about Han Huang. You shouldn't be surprised." Han Ling was not nervous upon facing the dozens of fellow disciples' eager gazes. She took the initiative to greet them. The Fiend Celestials had already found their own Dao. Hanju didn't need to preach the Dao to them. He came this time to inform them. Presumably before long, the news would spread to the personal disciples wandering in the chaos. That day, Hanju and his daughter left. The disciples dispersed and continued cultivating. In the Taoist temple, Dao Comprehension Sword pulled Li Yao and said, "Sister Li Yao, you have to seize the opportunity. Master rarely comes here. He will come for a long time, if he can have a son and a daughter." Li Yao rolled her eyes and asked angrily, "Who taught you this?" Dao Comprehension Sword chuckled. "Black Hell Chicken. It's my advisor now. Linger was here just now, so I couldn't do it. I'll definitely do it well the next time Master comes alone." Li Yao fell into deep thought. Indeed, Hanju came too few times. Although their relationship would not change, feelings needed to be nurtured. Hanju left the Dao field with Han Ling and started to travel the chaos. He left their soul fragments in the third Dao field to revive if necessary. It seemed peaceful now, but Hanju felt it better to hold back. Wouldn't it be a tragedy if the Dao creator suddenly went mad and wanted to mess with him? The higher one's cultivation level was, the more cautious they had to be. Unless he was already invincible. The father and daughter stood on a purple cloud as Hanju introduced the chaos to her. Han Ling listened quietly and thoughtfully. Hanju talked about his experiences, after briefly explaining the situation in the chaos. Han Ling's eyes lit up. The purple cloud moved very quickly. They arrived at the Great Dao Tower's domain, just as Hanju finished telling the story of how he attained the Dao. Hanju sent a voice transmission to Zhou Fan asking him to receive them. Zhou Fan was already on his own after all. Hanju didn't want to embarrass him by barging in. Soon, Zhou Fan was ready and invited him to the top of the tower. 2 other people were in the hall apart from him. One was Mo Fuzhou, and the other was a black-robed man, who looked 70 to 80% similar to Zhou Fan. "Master." Zhou Fan immediately knelt down when he saw Hanju. The man in black also knelt down. Mo Fuzhou was very uneasy and did not know what to do. Hanju smiled. "Alright, get up. Brother Mo, long time no see. How have you been?" Mo Fuzhou was relieved. He smiled and said, "Very good. Zhou Fan treats me like a brother, but I don't deserve to be called Brother Mo." Hanju smiled. "It's fine." Zhou Fan hurriedly asked, "This is?" "My daughter Han Ling was born 100,000 years ago. I brought her out today." Hanju smiled and introduced his daughter to them. Han Ling bowed. "Greetings, Senior Zhou." Zhou Fan beamed. "Junior sister Linger is impressive. She became a sage at 100,000 years old. She's much stronger than my son." The black-robed man looked at Han Ling in surprise. Everyone sat down after some pleasantries. Zhou Fan began to brag about his great Dao Tower. This was the first time the black-robed man saw his father so excited. He was even more curious about Hanju now. Divine might heavenly sage. He doesn't look strong, the black-robed man thought to himself. Then, he looked at Han Ling. Han Ling glanced at him. scaring him so much that he hurriedly retracted his gaze. Hanju also noticed this scene, but he didn't show it or care. It was impossible for the two of them. The difference in seniority and cultivation level was huge. He believed that Zhou Fan also knew about this, and would not let his son act recklessly. The current Great Dao Tower was also a major force in the chaotic domain. It had more than 100 subordinate worlds and 2 great Dao sages guarding it. One was Zhou Fan, and the other was a chaotic mighty figure that Zhou Fan had roped in. Hanju listened quietly, and didn't express his opinion. After Zhou Fan finished speaking, Hanju smiled and said, "That's right. I don't care how you develop. Just remember where you came from." Zhou Fan chuckled. "I'll always be a disciple of the hidden sect. If not for the connections of the hidden sect in your prestige, how could my journey be so smooth?" Hanju shook his head and laughed. Then, he gave Mo Fuzhou and the black-robed man a Dharma treasure each as a greeting gift. That day, Hanju and his daughter left. Zhou Fan and the other two stood by the tower and watched them leave. The man in black sighed. Zhou Fan glanced at him and said coldly, "Don't think too much. I had the urge to dig out your dog eyes. That's your elder. How can you look at her like that? Don't think too highly of yourself. You're not worthy." The black-robed man's face turned red. "Why not? I can cultivate diligently." Mo Fuzhou was amused, as if he was watching a show. "Cultivate diligently? How are you going to cultivate? Junior Linger is following the divine might heavenly sage. How can your cultivation speed be compared to hers? You will have some qualifications, if you can become the #1 prodigy of the chaos." Zhou Fan snorted and pulled Mo Fuzhou away. The black-robed man's expression changed. He actually didn't want anything. It was just love at first sight. The #1 prodigy of the chaos. You said that I can't, but I have to try. The black-robed man clenched his fists in anger. He wanted to slap his father's face. In the chaos, Hanju and Han Ling continued forward on the purple cloud. Han Ling asked, "Father, where are we going? The chaos is actually meaningless. I still like to cultivate beside you and enjoy the feeling of becoming stronger." Hanju smiled. "We're meeting your brothers and sister now." Han Ling asked nervously, "Will they like me?" Previously, she was generous when facing outsiders. But she became nervous now that she was going to see relatives she had never met. "Yes, my Linger is adored by everyone. Look at your senior Zhou's son. He's so obsessed with you that he can't talk." Hanju smiled. "Father, don't tease me." Han Ling blushed in embarrassment. Hanju said, "You have to choose your sweetheart well in the future. You can't embarrass your father. At least, he has to be worthy of you." Han Ling said indifferently, "Why should I have a sweetheart? I only have one goal, to become a mighty figure like father." "Father, hurry up. We'll go back and cultivate after meeting my brothers and sister." Chapter 972 Double Great Creation, Immense Opportunity. Chapter 972 Double Great Creation, Immense Opportunity. Heavenly Court. Hanju and the evil Heavenly Emperor drank and chatted in the Imperial Garden. Han Ling sat at the side obediently and silently, but she was not distracted. She listened carefully to their conversation. The evil Heavenly Emperor looked at her and sighed. "Hanju, your children are really talented. If not for the fact that Linger still has to cultivate with you, I would have poached her to the Heavenly Court to be an immortal." Hanju smiled and said, "That depends on her own thoughts." Han Ling replied, "Thank you for your kind intentions, Your Majesty. I plan to cultivate by father's side forever. I'm not interested in wandering the chaos." The evil Heavenly Emperor raised his eyebrows and sized her up in surprise. Hanju was glad. This little girl was really good. He would be a little jealous if all his children were poached by the evil Heavenly Emperor. At this moment, Han Huang, Han Qinger, and Jiang Jueshe rushed over. The three of them quickly bowed when they saw Hanju. Hanju smiled and introduced Han Ling to them. "Sister." Han Qinger was pleasantly surprised and immediately held Han Ling's arm. Han Huang also felt the closeness of his bloodline and immediately took out a Dharma treasure as a greeting gift. However, Jiang Jueshe was slightly moved. He felt a familiar aura from Han Ling. Great creation. This woman was also an innate great creation. Jiang Juesher couldn't help but look at Han Ju with reverence. Master could already impart great creation to his children? For some reason, he suddenly felt that his master was a little like the old master in his memories. Perhaps he was thinking too much. After all, millions of years had passed. Han Ju asked Jiang Juesher and the other two to sit down. Then he asked about their cultivation. Father, I'm only a step away from the great Tao Supreme Realm. I'll definitely be able to attain it before the chaotic assembly. I want the eternal peak, but I might have to represent the heavenly court. In any case, you have countless disciples under you and I'm your son. It's a win-win situation. But reputation is more important to the heavenly court. Han Huang chuckled. Han Ju smiled and nodded. He thought to himself that the evil heavenly emperor was quite capable. He probably poured his heart out to Han Huang to make this rash kid care so much. Han Qinger curled her lips. I just attained freedom. I'm completely incomparable to second brother and senior brother Jiang. In the future, I might even be surpassed by sister Ling. Not bad. Han Ju nodded slightly and looked at his disciple. Jiang Juesher said, my current cultivation is at the mid-stage Great Tao Primordial Chaos Realm. I don't dare to think about the eternal peak anymore. Junior Huang is too powerful. However, I'm definitely one of the chaotic 10 absolutes. Han Ling stared at him in deep thought. Han Ju smiled and said, you and Linger are both born with innate great creation. You have to cultivate well and not be caught up by Linger. As expected, Jiang Juesher thought to himself. The evil heavenly emperor's eyes lit up. Innate great creation? Could it be that the mysterious prodigy the entire chaos is talking about is Ling? Calculating the time, the two of them indeed descended at the same time. Han Huang couldn't help but size up his sister again. Han Qinger's eyes lit up. Wow! Sister, you have a great creation like Senior Jiang? His great reincarnation creation technique is so abnormal. What great creation do you have? Han Ling looked at her father. Han Ju said, I can't say for the time being. Linger will cultivate with me and show it one day. Jiang Juesher asked curiously, then will Junior Linger participate in this chaotic assembly? Han Ju shook his head. Although Han Ling was curious about the chaotic assembly, this matter was completely left to her father, so she did not say anything. The evil heavenly emperor sighed. Hanju, oh Hanju, it seems that your realm has already exceeded our imagination. So your children's talent is becoming higher and higher. Everyone looked at Hanju. Hanju smiled and said, it's all right. How's the discussion about Huanger's marriage? Hearing this, Han Huang shuddered and said excitedly, Father, I don't want to marry. In my eyes, all living beings are not the same as me. How can I have improper relationships with them? Han Ling's eyes lit up, and she looked at him in surprise. She had seen a lot along the way. She did not like the living beings of the chaos and the heavenly Tao. She even found it difficult to agree. So she was not the only one. Second brother was the same. Han Ju showed a frown. Han Qinger hurriedly tried to persuade him. Second brother, when has father ever asked you for anything? Others can't wait to do it. Han Huang's heart skipped a beat when he saw his father frown. That's right. This was the only thing his father had told him to do. Han Huang struggled for a moment and gritted his teeth. All right, Han Ju finally relaxed. Just like that, Han Ju and his daughter stayed in the heavenly Tao. Han Ling was pulled around by Han Qinger. Han Huang and Jiang Juesher entered seclusion again to prepare for the chaotic assembly. Han Ju and the evil heavenly emperor discussed the Tao. It was said to be a Tao discussion, but it was actually Han Ju's suggestion. The evil heavenly emperor happily accepted it. The strongest guidance in the chaos was hard to come by. At the bottom of the chaos, at a place with boundless mist, Tao's sovereign, Zhao Xianyuan, Jiang Yi, and Lao Dan cultivated around a small spring. This small spring was less than 5 feet in diameter. Spring water surged out from the ground. The water surface surged slightly and mist rose from the edge. It looked no different from the spring water in the mortal world, but it was especially abrupt here. There was no grass or life in a radius of 10,000 miles. There was only one water source. Zhao Xianyuan opened his eyes and said excitedly, my cultivation level increased so quickly. Jiang Yi smiled and said, Whose cultivation hasn't? My divine young indestructible body has increased greatly. Not only my cultivation level, but my potential is also increasing. Lao Dan opened his eyes and sighed. It's indeed impressive. A huge opportunity, a huge opportunity. However, it's only enough for the four of us. What? You still want to recommend it to the three pure sacred world? How is that possible? I have nothing to do with the three pure sacred world. How many times have I said it? Hee. Then why are you so nervous when my master defeated Laozi? After all, we are the same person. How can I not be worried? Zhao Xinyuan and Lao Dan began to bicker habitually. At this moment, the water surface suddenly fluctuated and a figure appeared. Look, Jiang Yi exclaimed. The other three immediately looked at the water. The strange figure that appeared in the water was covered in white fur. It had a human-like upper body and arms like branches. Its white fur twisted with the water. The four of them frowned. This was the first time they had seen such a phenomenon. At this moment, the white-haired figure suddenly opened its eyes. A strange green light burst out, terrifying. It opened its mouth, revealing 2 rows of sharp teeth like shark teeth, as if it was talking. Dao's sovereign and the other 3 couldn't understand or see through it. Zhao Xinyuan suddenly shivered and said, Everyone, do you still remember the ancient desolate? Whoosh! The 4 of them jumped back at the same time, away from the small spring. Jiang Yi swallowed. Should we leave? Dao's sovereign frowned. Are you willing to give up such a treasure? Zhao Xinyuan covered his forehead. Here we go again. Indeed. Lao Dan sighed. He knew that it was dangerous, but he still didn't want to let go. This feeling was really uncomfortable. Suddenly, the white-furred figure actually crawled out of the spring. First it was its arm, then its head. The hole formed by the spring was clearly far smaller than its body. It was stuck in the spring, quietly staring at Dao's sovereign and the other 3. Chapter 973 Hanju's Goal. Chapter 973 Hanju's Goal. What should we do? Jiang Yi asked in a low voice. He stared at the white-haired figure, afraid that it would suddenly attack. The other 3 were the same. They didn't dare to let their guard down. Dao's sovereign frowned. As the leader of the 4, he made the decisions. This opportunity was no small matter. Not only could this spring water help their cultivation increase rapidly, but it could also increase their potential, especially the latter. Such an opportunity was hard to come by. How could they let it go? Moreover, the strength of this white-haired figure was still unknown. How could he be frightened away? Dao's sovereign's eyes narrowed. His right hand behind his waist clenched into a fist. In an instant, the space around the white-haired figure froze. Even the white-haired figure couldn't move. Chase! Dao's sovereign shouted in a low voice. The white-haired figure shattered with the ice crystals around it, turning into mist and dissipating. Zhao Xinyuan and Jiang Yi were stunned. It ended just like that. At this moment, another arm covered in white fur emerged from the spring. The white-furred figure crawled out again and stared at them like before. Lao Dan frowned. Do you want more? The white-furred figure suddenly let out an obscure voice. But it automatically transformed into a language that the 4 of them could understand. Lao Dan frowned. You want us to go in? That's right. Who are you? I don't remember. If you help me, I'll give you more. Dao's sovereign and the other 2 looked at each other. Could it be that this fellow was sealed in the spring water? What was hidden under the spring? The white-haired figure trembled. He raised his hand and said, Below. Lao Dan came to Dao's sovereign's side and asked in a low voice, What do you think? Dao's sovereign's eyes flickered. He took a deep breath and said, Nothing ventured, nothing gained. I'll go down first. Wait for me. Think of a way to save me if I don't come up in 6 hours. This was the greatest reason he became the leader. He was the first to rush forward every time. I'll go down with you, Jiang Yi said in a low voice with a firm gaze. Zhao Xinyuan said helplessly, How can you go down alone? We won't be able to save you if something really happens. Our strength will be dispersed. Let's go together. For great Dao sages won't die no matter what. Lao Dan's expression changed. I have to go down too. Nonsense. Are we brothers? I'm your grandfather, okay? The 4 of them bickered for a while before they suppressed their nervousness and walked towards the little spring. third Tao field. Hanju and Hanling appeared here. Hanling heaved a sigh of relief and smiled upon looking at the familiar surroundings. You dislike the chaos so much? Hanju found it funny. Hanling covered her mouth and laughed. Indeed. Father, don't ask me to go out in the future unless you have something to do. I can accompany you. Hanju sat on the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus and said helplessly, women can't always follow their father. Hanling also sat down. Then, I'll go out when I surpass you. That's impossible. That's even better. Hanling stuck out her tongue obediently. Hanju didn't say anything else and started cultivating. He also had his own goal, which was to become a Tao creator as soon as possible. The father and daughter closed their eyes. When he opened his eyes again, 100,000 years had already passed. Hanju began to observe the primordial world while Hanling walked out and greeted her mother, Xian Qingjun. After all, they were mother and daughter. She should go talk with her when she was free. The primordial world was still expanding, and there was more and more ultimate origin qi. However, it was like a drop in the ocean compared to the primordial qi. The more ultimate origin qi there was, the stronger Hanju's dermic powers became. Apart from that, there were already more than 500 chaotic fiend celestials in the primordial world. The remaining fiend celestial qi was still being nurtured. It was not far from nurturing 3,000 fiend celestials. Hanju estimated that he shouldn't be able to gather 3,000 fiend celestials. After all, there were already nearly 100 chaotic fiend celestials in the chaos. Most of them were in the second Tao field. Hanju started to check his emails. Your disciple Tao Sovereign was attacked by chaotic resentful devil, X10922281. Your disciple Zhao Xinyuan was attacked by chaotic resentful devil, X9873221. Your son Han Huang's cultivation has broken through. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your disciple Zhou Fan has entered the bottom of the chaos. Your good friend Azure Heaven Mystic was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure and was severely injured. Your good friend, the ultimate god of punishment, was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Holy Mother of Order has absorbed the supreme rule power, and her cultivation has increased. Your disciple Tao Sovereign has comprehended the great Tao Providence divine authority. His cultivation has increased greatly. Hanju was surprised. Tao Sovereign and the other two had comprehended the great Tao Providence divine authority. So lucky. He pinched his fingers to deduce, and discovered that he could not deduce their location. Interesting. Hanju could already easily suppress 1,000,000 great Tao sages. But there were still some places in the chaos that could not be spied on. There were still many old monsters hidden in the chaos. Hanju felt several auras stronger than the ultimate god of punishment when the nine-headed divine spirit attacked the third Tao field. They were all old schemers, and they were even more cowardly than him. Hanju continued reading the emails. Evil Heavenly Emperor, Huang Zuantian, Zhou Fan, and the others' providence was increasing. Even the divine robe Taoist had an opportunity recently. Hanju was very glad. Since his friends were fine, he could enter seclusion without worry. Now that the ultimate god of punishment and the Holy Mother of Order were his people, no one in the chaos should be able to hurt the people close to him. Hanju seriously suspected that the choice reward that happened once every 1,000,000 years would become once every 10,000,000 years after breaking becoming 10,000,000 years old. In that case, his seclusion period had to increase. 100,000 years was too short. He had an immature goal. He wanted to become a Tao creator before the chaotic assembly. He would be around 15,000,000 years old when the chaotic assembly took place. He still had nearly 5,000,000 years. Hanling returned to the Taoist temple several hours later. Seeing that her father was stretching, she immediately came over and said, "Father, I've already attained freedom. I have 100,000 emperor soldiers." 100,000 freedom emperor soldiers? Hanju's heart beat wildly. The primordial emperor star was a little terrifying. Could it be that there was a difference in innate great creation? He felt that Jiang Juesher was inferior to his daughter. Hanju said, "It's all right. Everyone below the great Tao is an ant. Hurry up and attain the great Tao. I'll teach you a mystical power." Thank you, father, Han Ling replied, disappointment flashing across his eyes. Han Ju said helplessly, all right, you're very strong, stronger than your brothers and sister. All right, you just want me to praise you. Han Lingling beamed and smiled. Is it too much for a daughter to want her father's praise? Han Ju asked, does your mother know? I didn't tell her. She doesn't care about me anyway. Han Ling curled her lips. She could feel that her mother wanted a son more. Han Ju smiled and said, don't blame your mother. If you want to blame someone, blame me. I should have turned you into a man. So what if I'm a woman? Gender doesn't mean much. Cultivation is the key in this world. In any case, I don't care about my body. I only care about my existence and my soul. Han Ling spread his hands. Chapter 974 Han Family's Foundation. Chapter 974 Han Family's Foundation. Time passed quickly. Another 100,000 years passed. Han Ju opened his eyes and habitually observed the primordial world before checking his emails. Everything was fine. There was nothing to worry about. He began to think of the Mystical Destiny book. The cooldown time of the Mystical Destiny book was already up. This was a good thing. It was equivalent to the will of chaos and could tamper with the memories of all living beings. No, it was even more exaggerated and could change the truth. Han Ju checked the Mystical Destiny book's information again. Mystical Destiny book. Ultimate Supreme Treasure. A supreme treasure formed by seizing a supreme creation. It can tamper with the past and future of others and directly change everything. It is not restricted or spied on by any rules. Every time you use this treasure, your lifespan will be deducted at a different price. This treasure will sleep for a period of time. As the number of times it is used increases, its sleeping time will double. Special hint: this treasure cannot be upgraded and cannot recognize a master. He pondered for a while and felt that there was no need to use it for the time being. He could use it if he encountered something in the future. Currently, he was not in any danger. The ninth chaos did not pursue the matter. He could let it go for the time being. After Han Ju made his decision, he looked at his daughter beside him. He said, Linger, do you want to learn a mystical power? Han Ling opened his eyes in surprise and immediately nodded. Han Ju immediately started to teach her the mystical power. Han Ling's talent was indeed impressive. She could master ordinary mystical powers almost in one go. Several months later, Han Ling had already learned more than 10 mystical powers from Han Ju, including the Divine Might Great Heaven Palm. Han Ling sighed. I really want to find someone to spar with. Han Ju immediately opened the authority of the simulation trial for her and introduced it briefly. She was very surprised. In the next few decades, Han Ling was immersed in the simulation trial and could not extricate herself. Han Ju came to the main Dao field and observed the heavenly Dao. He discovered that Han Yu was already married and had passed down his lineage. 200,000 years of development allowed the Han family to become large with a deep foundation in the heavenly Dao. Not all sages had descendants in the immortal world, let alone a family. Their teachings were more about master and disciple. To sages, bloodline was not a safe way to inherit. It was not easy to produce an existence with unparalleled talent among the descendants. It was definitely easier to search the entire immortal world for disciples. In addition, if a sage inherited a lineage with their bloodline, it would also make outsiders feel that it was difficult to approach. The lineage would only become more and more narrow-minded. Currently, the Han family of the immortal world had already been passed down for decades, and even developed many branches that were distributed in dozens of mortal worlds. Han Ju was satisfied. Only Han Yu did his best and completed the mission he had been given. Han Ju would not interfere with the Han family. They were only the candidates of his creation heavens chosen. The Han family was a sage family after all. There were also many geniuses of the heavenly Dao among the descendants. They also had a good reputation in the immortal world. Just as Han Ju was thinking, a black vortex suddenly appeared in front of him. Invocation technique. Han Ju deduced and discovered that it was Zhao Xianyuan who used the invocation technique. Han Ling was still in the simulation trial. Han Ju immediately stepped into the black vortex. There was a trace of will in the Taoist temple. Thus he was not afraid to die. After stepping through the black vortex, what greeted Hanju's vision were black resentful devils filling the sky. They were all in different postures and looked dense. There were countless of them. Below the black vortex were Dao Sovereign, and the other three. At this moment, Dao Sovereign and Jiang Yi were severely injured. Their bodies were incomplete and covered in blood. Strange green flames were burning on their wounds. Their faces were filled with pain. Lao Dan raised his hands and used his dermic powers to cast a barrier, causing an invisible barrier to appear around the four of them. Zhao Xianyuan heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Hanju. "Master, save us," Zhao Xianyuan said anxiously. Hanju's back was facing the black vortex. He didn't move in order to prevent a mysterious existence from using the black vortex to infiltrate the third Dao field. His eyes narrowed. The resentful devils that filled the sky vanished. These resentful devils were all at the Freedom Realm. How could they stop the four great Dao sages? Hanju found it strange. Before he could ask, he suddenly glanced in a direction. The ground below was like a barren desert. A figure was slowly walking over on Hanju's left. It was a man in broken armor. He was tall and straight, and his long hair fluttered in the wind. His ghost-like black face sported red eyebrows. His eyes were cold, and at first glance he seemed to have 4 eyes. This person was as strong as a ferocious beast. Holding a huge saber in his right hand, the blade drew an endless ravine on the ground. This huge saber was even larger than him. The weapon was covered in black and red scales, and the blade was silver like a bright moon. Hanju narrowed his eyes. This aura was very strong, already comparable to a great Dao Supreme. No wonder Dao Sovereign, and the other three couldn't stop him. Then again, where was this? Hanju's divine sense swept through the entire world, and discovered that this world was extremely vast, like the chaos, but there was no such huge land in the chaos. Wait, the bottom of the chaos. Hanju had gone to the bottom of the chaos when he fought with the ancient desolate divine spirit. The bottom of the chaos was also such a land. No, it's not the bottom of the chaos. There's no chaotic chi here. Master, be careful. The things here can devour dermic powers. Zhao Xianyuan said anxiously. He pointed at the terrifying figure dragging the saber and said, "It's that fellow who injured Dao Sovereign and Jiang Yi. The two of them almost died with just one strike." Jiang Yi coughed violently. "Save us some face." Lao Dan looked up at Hanju with a complicated expression. "Divine might, heavenly sage." Hanju asked, "What is this place?" Zhao Xianyuan replied, "I'm not sure. It shouldn't be the chaos. We entered from an entrance at the bottom of the chaos. We grasped the great Dao Providence divine authority here. After staying here for so long, we thought that we were already invincible in the great Dao Sage realm. I didn't expect to encounter this fellow." The great Dao Providence divine authority was related to the supreme rules. To be able to control the great Dao Providence divine authority outside the chaos. Boom! The armored man in the distance suddenly jumped, causing the ground within 100 miles to collapse. Dust flew as he raised his scale saber and slashed at Hanju. This power was enough to scare mortals to death, but it was nothing in his eyes. Hanju frowned. The armored man broke through Lao Dan's dermic powers barrier and knocked him to the ground. Hanju raised his palm upon seeing that the saber was about to land on him. Divine might, great heaven palm. A terrifying wave erupted, and the armored man instantly turned into dust. The scale saber spun towards the horizon. That's it. He was even inferior to a sage. His aura was like a great Dao Supreme, but his speed was far inferior to a sage. Hanju was puzzled when the scale saber suddenly stopped. With a cold flash, it attacked Hanju again. So fast. Hanju frowned even more. He didn't dodge. The black vortex was behind him. Han Ling would definitely be in danger if this saber rushed in. Boom! The scale saber was blocked by Hanju's ultimate mortal rope. The two forces shook the entire sky, and the huge wind caused the ground to shake. Under Hanju's gaze, the scales on the surface of the scale saber appeared and condensed into the armored man again. Chapter 975 Consciousnessless Great Dao World. Chapter 975 Consciousnessless Great Dao World. The armored man's expression became sinister after recondensing his body. With a roar, He began to swing his saber crazily. Saber chi swept out, carrying strange and profound runes. The runes expanded and flew in all directions. Dao's sovereign and the other three were pushed into the distance. The ground shattered. Zhao Xinyuan looked at the armored man in horror and cursed in a low voice. This fellow is so terrifying. He probably didn't think much of us previously. No one replied. Lao Dan's expression was also ugly. Although Dao's sovereign and Jiang Yi were severely injured, the pain was nothing to them. They were only worried that Han Ju could not block it. The world kept collapsing. No matter how the armored man attacked, he could not break through the ultimate mortal robe's defense. Han Ju raised his right hand and raised thousands of hand shadows. It was dazzling. He pushed forward gently. Great change sealing palm. Obsessed with attacking and did not dodge, the armored man was directly struck by the palm and could not move instantly. He hung in the air, staring at Han Ju. The huge commotion in the world stopped. Dao's sovereign and the other three were stunned. They were all worried for Han Ju when they felt the armored man's aura just now. They didn't expect that the armored man wouldn't be able to move after Han Ju's casual move. Han Ju looked at them and asked, "Are you leaving or staying here?" Zhao Xinyuan came back to his senses and hurriedly said, "Staying here. We've been here for more than 200,000 years and nothing happened. Today was just an accident. This fellow is too strong. Our Dharma treasures and mystical powers can't do anything to him, but he can still summon resentful devils. We had no choice but to ask you for help." Han Ju waved his sleeve and took the armored man and the scale saber away. Then he stepped back into the black vortex. The vortex shrank, and everything returned to normal. Lao Dan sighed. "Your master is indeed the strongest in the chaos. That fellow's aura has already surpassed the great Dao sage. But in front of him," Zhao Xinyuan said proudly, "Of course." Dao's sovereign and Jiang Yi began to heal their injuries. Han Ju asked in his mind after returning to the third Dao field. "Where was that place just now? 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? So expensive. The value of a Dao creator. Continue. Consciousnessless great Dao world. A world created by the chaotic deity, chaotic consciousness. It is suppressed by the chaos and has no life. It is vast and endless." Suppressed by the chaos. Han Ju instantly thought of many things. No wonder the appearance rate of the chaotic consciousness was so high. Logically speaking, the Dao creator had already jumped out of the chaos and should not appear again, such as the other two Dao creators whose names were unknown. It turned out that the chaotic consciousness world was suppressed by the ninth chaos. In that case, the chaotic consciousness might have been subdued by the ninth chaos and become a chaotic deity to watch over the chaos safety. It was not impossible. The chaotic consciousness had supported the rise of Azure Heaven Mystic in the chaos. It was probably part of the plan. Han Ju thought about how uncomfortable it would be if his primordial world was suppressed by the chaos. It seemed that unless it was absolutely necessary, he could not expose the primordial world's existence. The ninth chaos seemed to have no desires, but that was only on the surface. As for Dao's sovereign and the other three, Han Ju couldn't be bothered. These guys liked to wander around and couldn't stay idle. This was also good. They could unlock more new maps for him. Han Ju took out the scale saber. As for the armored man, he had already erased him. The armored man's true form was this saber. This treasure was not simple. At the very least, it was a chaotic supreme treasure. It was enough to make any great Dao existence envious. He began to use absolute purification. Han Ling asked curiously after opening her eyes and seeing the saber. "Father, what is this?" "A Dharma treasure." "I know that. What I want to know is, you want it?" Han Ling nodded in embarrassment. In the simulation trial, she discovered that many opponents had powerful Dharma treasures. Sometimes Dharma treasures were stronger than mystical powers. Han Ju said, "This treasure is ferocious. I have to eliminate its hostility first. Wait for me to finish." Han Ling responded, but her gaze was fixed on the scale saber. Han Ju recalled the ultimate Dao treasure he had snatched from the carefree immortal. He immediately took out this treasure. The half-moon red jade floated in his palm, attracting Han Ling's gaze. "Choose one of the two." You can only choose one, Hanju said casually, not knowing which Dharma treasure was stronger. Han Ling pointed at the half-moon red jade. I want this one. It's stronger. The power it contains is very similar to my great creation. Hanju raised his eyebrows. This girl was only a freedom sage, and could already spy on the ultimate Tao treasure? The half-moon red jade had long been purified, and was not dangerous. However, Han Ling had to become stronger if she wanted to subdue this treasure. Hanju threw the half-moon red jade to her. The ultimate Tao treasure was indeed impressive. But Hanju had more than one. This treasure was not an offensive or defensive treasure. It was more inclined towards creation and karma. Han Ling took the treasure and immediately beamed. She began to study it. Several hundred years later, the scaled saber was successfully purified. The saber spirit in the saber no longer surged. It fell into a deep sleep and waited for its master to wake it up. Vast, this treasure was not simple. It contained great Tao supreme power and extremely strong killing intent. It could be left to disciples or descendants in the future. Hanju thought of someone. Hanyu. This fellow was more obedient than Han Huang and Han Tua. He followed the instructions obediently. It was time to support him. As Hanju was thinking, a line of words suddenly appeared in front of him. The chaotic consciousness sent you a dream. Do you accept? Hanju's heart trembled. Tao Creator, is it dangerous for me to accept this dream? 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. No, Hanju secretly heaved a sigh of relief and silently chose to accept it. The dream was a blank domain. Countless remains floated around it. It was ghastly and terrifying. Hanju looked around, but did not find the chaotic consciousness. At this moment, a huge head suddenly turned around. Its 8 eyes stared at him. Hanju frowned and asked, Who are you? Why are you visiting me in my dreams? The chaotic consciousness smiled. I am a chaotic deity. Chaotic deity? Hanju was moved and pretended to be shocked. He muttered to himself, chaotic deity. Could it be that the existence who created the supreme rules really exists? The chaotic consciousness said, I'm not the one who created the chaos and the supreme rules, but the 9th chaos you saw before. I'm only responsible for protecting the chaotic order. The matter of the 9-headed divine spirit made the 9th chaos very dissatisfied with me. Hanju remained silent. He didn't know what the chaotic consciousness wanted to tell him. After all, the chaotic consciousness still had a 1-star favorability towards him. Hanju, there's no hope for you to reach our level. The Great Tao Supreme Realm is your limit. You can't go beyond the Great Tao Supreme Realm, even if you're still becoming stronger. The chaotic consciousness said faintly. You went to the consciousnessless Great Tao world when you went to save your disciples. This world was created by an existence that surpassed the Great Tao Supreme Realm. It's equivalent to a 2nd chaos. However, he was suppressed by the 9th chaos as soon as he created this world. The consciousnessless Great Tao world was suppressed by the chaos. All the spirit chi in the world was sucked away by the chaos, and the consciousnessless Great Tao world became a place of nothingness. Chapter 976 Red Eyes. Chapter 976 Red Eyes. How dishonest. Why didn't he talk about his own circumstances? Was he worried about his reputation, or did he have other intentions? Hanju complained in his heart, but continued to listen on the surface. The chaotic consciousness said, Above the Great Tao Supreme Realm is the Tao Creator Realm. The way to attain the Tao Creator Realm is to create a Great Tao world. The chaos is the first Great Tao world, a Tao world formed by 3,000 Great Tao. Every Great Tao world has 3,000 Great Tao, and forms a system of rules. But it's impossible for you to succeed with the chaos around, unless you're willing to let your Great Tao world become a subsidiary world of the chaos. I've observed you. You keep saying that you don't want to cause trouble, but what you really want is independence. Absolute independence is actually strength. You actually pursue power. The chaotic consciousness stared at Hanju with its 8 eyes, making him feel weak. This was malicious flattery. He wanted to elevate him and force him to go against the 9th chaos. Hanju said, Deity, you're being too serious. I've never bullied anyone. Why would I do that? The chaotic consciousness said. Then, are you prepared to submit to the ninth chaos? Hanju said. Not for the time being. Anyway, I don't even have the thought of creating a great Tao world. He did not say anything absolute, to avoid offending the chaotic consciousness. In any case, he would delay, and keep the chaotic consciousness guessing. Let's not talk about the Tao creator realm. Even if you have an opportunity, it's difficult to create a great Tao world in less than 1 trillion years. I came to you this time to talk about the consciousnessless great Tao world. There are many living beings there. After being suppressed by the chaos, these living beings can't go to the chaos, and don't have spirit chi. Those who survive are mortals who don't need spirit chi to survive. These living beings have been occupied by jealousy for a long time. They hate the chaos. Because the chaos is higher than the consciousnessless great Tao world, they can't enter the chaos. However, they discovered a way to become stronger. In the long run, they will probably become a threat to the chaos. Hanju raised his eyebrows. A trap? Isn't the consciousnessless great Tao world yours? Hanju would not believe his words if the chaotic consciousness did not reveal this. The chaotic consciousness said, I hope that you can go and educate these living beings. If you can't, organize the chaos and kill all the vengeful spirits of the great Tao world. Hanju asked, Who else did you tell this? You are already the strongest in the chaos. I will only find the strongest. You can decide what to do. With that said, the surrounding corpses instantly exploded, and the dream ended. Hanju opened his eyes and frowned. Wow, what a schemer. If it were anyone else, without knowing that the consciousnessless great Tao world belonged to the chaotic consciousness, they would definitely be excited after hearing this, thinking that they had been recognized by the chaotic deity, and were given power and responsibility. However, Hanju knew that this was a huge trap. Didn't you say that it will take me 1 trillion years to break through? I'll start after 100 million years. Hanju thought silently, and felt that the chaotic consciousness should not be in a hurry. Time passed very quickly for Tao creators. 10 million years was like an instant and not worth mentioning. Then, Hanju stopped thinking and quickly started cultivating. Hanling was still playing with the half-moon red jade. She loved it, and looked like a cute girl for once. Ultimate God World. The ultimate god of punishment sized up the 5 divine punishers in front of him, with a satisfied expression. Etion smiled and said, Exalted God, how are we going to compete in the chaotic assembly? If it's a one-on-one battle, we'll have to hand over the supreme throne of the eternal peak. The other divine punishers also smiled and nodded. They had communicated in private, and felt that the ultimate god of punishment had probably submitted to Hanju. Otherwise, he wouldn't have promoted them again. Back then, they were almost crippled when the ancient desolate divine spirit appeared. If it was just shaking hands and making peace, they would at most keep their divine punisher positions. How could he nurture them so diligently? This meant that they were all on the same side. The ultimate god of punishment smiled. I'll discuss this with the divine might heavenly sage. Han Huang is indeed unstoppable, but someone among you has to enter the chaotic 10 absolutes. The chaotic 10 absolutes will definitely be fine. We'll take care of it. Etion said smugly. Han Tua rolled his eyes. Don't talk nonsense. I suspect that my father still has many absurdly powerful subordinates. Etion's smile froze. The ultimate god of punishment smiled and said, Don't always think of the divine might heavenly sage's subordinates. The hidden sect has a deep foundation, but the chaos still has other geniuses. Many stunning figures have appeared in the past 1,000,000 years. Some geniuses who have been in seclusion have also begun to build momentum. The chaotic assembly will be very exciting. You can't be careless. Take advantage of the last 4,000,000 years and work hard. He paused and said, You know the supreme rules, but don't you know the great Tao Providence divine authority? The chaotic fiend celestials control the power of the great Tao, and the power of the supreme rules is the great Tao Providence divine authority. It's equivalent to being above the chaotic fiend celestials. Currently, there are only 7 great Tao Providence divine authority. If I obtain one, there will be a great Tao Providence divine authority at the eternal peak. This will be the closest path for you to reach the peak. Such an opportunity is something I never thought of before. The 5 divine punishers widened their eyes and breathed heavily. Even Han Tuo was the same. Great Tao Providence Divine Authority. The ultimate god of punishment continued. I will begin to build momentum for the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority. But this award will not be made public for now. It will only be informed to all living beings after the top of the world is determined. Therefore, this information is to your advantage as the divine punishers. Etian cursed. I'll do it. Sorry, Han Huang. I won't let you go anymore. Han Tuo said faintly. Second brother attained the Great Tao Supreme Realm not long ago. Etian's eyes turned red. He glared at him and asked, You want to give up? Han Tuo was silent. How could he give up? The Great Tao Providence Divine Authority was a supreme opportunity to walk towards the peak of the chaos. It was above the 3,000 Great Tao. The other 3 divine punishers were also very excited. The ultimate god of punishment smiled and disappeared. In the years to come, the chaotic assembly became the focus of the entire chaos. The various factions began to promote the geniuses they nurtured with all their might. It was the same for the heavenly court. Han Huang was still the most dazzling star. However, many geniuses were not convinced. This was how geniuses were. They all thought that they could kill enemies above their level. They were the most talented. Not to mention the chaos, the heavenly Tao also had many such geniuses. For example, Azure Heaven Mystic and Zhao Shuangquan. Azure Heaven Mystic was a pawn of the chaotic consciousness. Needless to say, his potential was even more impressive. Zhao Shuangquan was the 8th Chaos's reincarnation. The two often sparred. But Azure Heaven Mystic started cultivation early, and thus always suppressed him. However, the heavenly Tao sages nurtured the two of them fairly. They tried their best to satisfy whatever they wanted. On this day, in Su Qi's palace, Zhao Shuangquan was excitedly recounting his recent achievements. Zhao Shuangquan and Azure Heaven Mystic would also wander the chaos from time to time and build their reputation. Su Qi said helplessly, Why are you like Azure Heaven Mystic? You're arrogant and fearless. You'll suffer sooner or later. Chapter 977 Great Opportunity. Number 1 Deity. Chapter 977 Great Opportunity. Number 1 Deity. I'm different from Azure Heaven Mystic. He's a coward who only knows how to bark and doesn't dare to kill easily. He's simply stupid. He's often humiliated, but lets them survive. He'll be doomed sooner or later. I'm different. I'm only arrogant to my opponent. I can't be bothered if there's no karma. Zhao Shuangquan snorted with disdain. Su Qi could only smile helplessly at the grudge between Azure Heaven Mystic and Zhao Shuangquan. The internal strife of the two geniuses was not a secret in the entire heavenly Tao. Fortunately, they were only bickering and competitive. They did not scheme against each other's lives. They could be considered to appreciate each other. The two of them did not have friends. Among their peers, the ones who interacted the most were still each other. In the eyes of the sages, they were close friends. Su Qi said, There's more and more news about the chaotic assembly. The various factions in the chaos are building momentum. The heavenly Tao is preparing to support you and Azure Heaven Mystic. But currently, you don't have any impressive achievements. Your range of activity has always been in the Heavenly Tao Alliance. Your defeated opponents have more or less given the Heavenly Tao face. Zhao Shuangquan was silent. Su Qi said, By the way, have you heard of Han Huang? Zhao Shuangquan's eyes lit up. Heavenly Court's Han Huang? That's right. Of course I've heard of him. Many people say that he's almost on the throne of the eternal peak. He was born as freedom and has unparalleled potential. His backing is even more impressive. Hehe, you have to call him Uncle Master, understand? Yes, Uncle Master Han. Zhao Shuangquan scratched his head and smiled. Because of Su Qi, he had a good impression of the hidden sect. In his opinion, the hidden sect was a righteous lineage. Back then, Su Qi had been plotted against so badly. If it was any other orthodoxy, they could only give him up. Only the hidden sect did not. Su Qi was even supported by the divine might heavenly sage to become a sage. Zhao Shuangquan had also been taken care of by the other seniors of the hidden sect since he was young. The reason he could compete with Azure Heaven Mystic was greatly attributed to the hidden sect's help. Su Qi said, "If you want fame, I want to recommend you to be Junior Huang's subordinate. Make a name for yourself, and take advantage of your uncle Master Huang's prestige." Zhao Shuangquan was silent. He was proud and arrogant. Although he liked the hidden sect, it did not mean that he felt inferior to them. Su Qi said, "If you don't go, Junior Ji will recommend Azure Heaven Mystic. The Heavenly Court is still too small, and can't help you soar." In the beginning, Azure Heaven Mystic was under Ji Xianshan. In order to let Azure Heaven Mystic become a prodigy nurtured by the Heavenly Tao, he self-imposed expulsion. At this point, Azure Heaven Mystic truly belonged to the Heavenly Tao. Zhao Shuangquan immediately said, "I'll go. I'll be a soldier under Uncle Master Huang." Su Qi immediately smiled. This child couldn't be provoked. Your Uncle Master Huang might not agree. Su Qi shook his head and smiled. This was the truth. He usually did not interact with Han Huang. No matter how close they were, they had to be distant. Zhao Shuangquan grinned. If Han Huang did not accept him, he naturally would not accept Azure Heaven Mystic. It was fine as long as he did not fall behind Azure Heaven Mystic. In the consciousnessless Great Tao world, Tao's sovereign and the other three walked into an underground palace. The hall was spacious. The walls on both sides and above were embedded with countless different colored crystals. Flames of different sizes also floated, making the place bright. Lao Dan reminded, "Be careful. That fellow invited us here for a reason." Jiang Yi said, For the same." The four of them continued forward and arrived in front of a lake. This lake blocked the center of the hall. The surface of the lake was 10,000 feet in diameter and shone brightly. All sorts of transparent fish surged in the water, forming a lively area. The four of them stopped by the lake. A figure stood opposite the lake. It was the white-haired figure who had brought them to the consciousnessless Great Tao world. The white-furred figure had already grown his lower body. He looked like a cow or horse with black fur. Zhao Xinyuan shouted, "We're here. What do you want to do? Just say it." The white-furred figure let out a low and hoarse voice. "Become the realm lord and help this world escape the chaos. I will help you control the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority." Tao Sovereign and the other three looked at each other. The white-furred figure continued. "Other than the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority that belongs to the chaos, others can also control the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority of the consciousnessless Great Tao world. The consciousnessless Great Tao world's essence is the same as the chaos, but the supreme rules of the chaos have already been divided. I'm the only one who has touched the consciousnessless Great Tao world. I can only control one." Jiang Yi frowned. "Drag us into the chaos with you? Isn't this making us betray the Tao?" "Everyone, you're from the Heavenly Tao. The Heavenly Tao is actually the same as the consciousnessless Great Tao world. Its essence is the same as the chaos, but it is not compatible. When the Heavenly Tao grows to a certain extent, it will sooner or later fall into the same situation as the consciousnessless Great Tao world. The Tao ancestors' disappearance was also for this reason. The reason why the Heavenly Tao couldn't develop ago was also because it was pressured by the chaos." The white-haired figure began to tell the four of them about the Heavenly Tao's past. Tao Sovereign glanced at Lao Dan. Lao Dan sent a voice transmission. "Indeed. I've heard from my master that the Heavenly Tao is a world with rules and order in the chaos. However, you also understand the current situation. If not for your master's rise, I'm afraid." Tao Sovereign's expression darkened. The white-furred figure said, "Helping the consciousnessless Great Tao world is also helping the Heavenly Tao." Zhao Xinyuan asked, "Who are you?" The white-haired figure hesitated for a moment before saying, "I am the first living being in the consciousnessless Great Tao world. You can call me the number one deity." "The number one deity? How arrogant." Tao Sovereign and the other three thought to themselves. Jiang Yi asked, "How can we believe you? What if you tamper with the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority of the consciousnessless Great Tao world?" The number one deity replied, "I no longer have any room to scheme. I only want to survive. If you don't believe me, one of you can test me first." Dao Sovereign, and the other three were silent. Zhao Xinyuan looked at Dao Sovereign and said, "Brother, decide." Jiang Yi said, "We'll do it together." Lao Dan was speechless and clutched his chest. It hurt slightly. Dao Sovereign said in a low voice, "Yes. If not for this karma, we have to take a different path and seek great opportunities if we want to seek the chaos. Besides, we will also be allies of the heavenly Tao and resist the chaos together when the consciousnessless great Tao world develops. Brothers, don't forget, we are living beings of the heavenly Tao and not the chaos." Zhao Xinyuan and Jiang Yi smiled firmly. 100,000 years later, Hanju opened his eyes and saw Han Ling's beautiful face. He glared at her and said angrily, "How dare you to keep staring at your father?" Han Ling smiled. "Father." This smile was clearly a coquettish one. Hanju's dissatisfaction immediately dissipated. He asked helplessly, "Tell me, what is it?" "I've already grasped the treasure you gave me. Shall we spar in the simulation trial?" Han Ling covered her mouth and laughed. Hanju raised his eyebrows. This girl was rebellious. "You want to challenge your father? Very good. I'll let you experience the despair your father's enemies experienced." Chapter 978 Huang Zuantian's Future. The Dark Forbidden Lord is still here. Chapter 978 Huang Zuantian's Future. The Dark Forbidden Lord is still here. Hanju agreed to fight with Han Ling, and the father and daughter entered the simulation trial. Hanju attacked the moment the fighting started. Instant kill. There was no argument. Han Ling suddenly woke up with a stunned expression. Hanju's expression didn't change. The Taoist temple was silent for a while before Han Ling said aggrievedly, "Father, how can you use your true strength? Even if you do, let me use my full strength first. I mainly want to test the power of this treasure." Hanju said angrily, "There are so many opponents in the simulation trial. Isn't it enough for you to try on them? You're just too daring and want to find trouble with your father. How can this be?" "Hehe. I don't care. Father, don't attack first. Let me attack for a while." Hanju couldn't stand Han Ling's coquettishness. He could only agree. The second simulation trial began. Hanju did not attack, and let Han Ling use all sorts of methods on him. He finally saw how powerful the Emperor soldiers were. Their cultivation was like the main bodies. They were ferocious, but they did not know any mystical powers. It was indeed like an army in the mortal world. It was very difficult for anyone of the same realm to stop Han Ling. However, they became useless if there was a difference in cultivation level, no matter how many Emperor soldiers there were. Han Ling couldn't break through Hanju's defense no matter how she attacked. In the end, she got tired and gave up. The father and daughter opened their eyes. Han Ling sighed. She had suffered a blow. Hanju smiled proudly. "Do you know how powerful your father is? Why don't you go out and ask around?" Han Ling curled his lips. "Is that so? Then tell me your story again. Last time, you talked about attaining the Tao. What happened after that?" She was really curious. She was already invincible among her peers in the simulation trial. She could still resist even when facing a great Tao sage. She had overestimated herself and fought with all the existences in the simulation trial. But no one pressured her so much. Hanju immediately started to tell his story. He was naturally willing to show off in front of his daughter. The story went on for a long time. Han Ling sighed after he finished speaking. Hanju's enemies and situations fascinated her. What would she do if she faced his previous dangers? "I cultivated in seclusion so that my enemies can never guess my cultivation level." Hanju smiled. Han Ling nodded. "I think so too. Father, don't worry. I'll never be arrogant." The father and daughter chatted for a while. Han Ling continued cultivating while Hanju started to check his emails. His circle of friends was very lively. His old friends had already grown up and could take charge. Hanju sighed. An email attracted his attention. "Your good friend Huang Zuantian established the Great Tao World, and his cultivation increased greatly." Great Tao World? This was a key to attaining the Tao Creator realm. This fellow was something. Hanju thought for a moment before pulling Huang Zuantian into a dream. The dream was the 18 peaks of the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. The green mountains and rivers were as beautiful as a painting. Huang Zuantian's aura became stronger. He wore a golden-patterned black robe and a purple jade dragon horn blue crown. His robe fluttered in the wind, and he had a dignified expression. Life Lord. Huang Zuantian opened his eyes and saw Hanju. He asked, "So it's you. I have an opportunity, and was looking for you. Do you want to hear it?" Hanju said, "No." Huang Zuantian immediately knelt down on one knee and cupped his fists. "Greetings, master." He was excited and did not put on airs at all. His achievements were indeed impressive, but he still felt that he was far inferior compared to Hanju. If not for Hanju using the name of the divine might heavenly sage to attract the attention of all living beings in the chaos, he would not be where he was today. With his understanding of Hanju, he knew that the other party didn't like to be in the limelight. Wasn't he so ostentatious in the past millions of years to make all living beings forget them? The Calamity Life Controllers? Ever since Hanju reached the peak of the chaos, the ultimate god of punishment had also looked for him and was willing to give him a chance. This made him even more respectful towards Hanju. He felt that all of this was thanks to Hanju. However, Hanju didn't look for him, so he didn't dare to expose his relationship with him. Hanju said, "Did you create a world in the depths of your soul?" Huang Zuantian was stunned. This was his secret. His master actually knew. Yes, master is really powerful. You can even discover this. Huang Zuantian replied respectfully with a look of admiration. Hanju said, "Don't mention this to anyone, including your trusted aides." He told Huang Zuantian the information that the chaotic consciousness had told him. Huang Zuantian trembled. He didn't expect there to be a transcendent existence above the chaos. He took a deep breath and said, "Thank you for your reminder, master. I originally wanted to move the Calamity Life Controllers in. Fortunately, you alerted me. I was almost exposed. An existence who could revive all living beings in the chaos with a wave of his hand. How terrifying was that?" Hanju said, "I believe you will hide well. I have been paying attention to you all these years. You did well, and changed the image of life in the hearts of all living beings. Are you going to participate in the chaotic assembly?" Huang Zuantian replied, "Yes. The life faction will be truly cleansed once I become a great Tao divine spirit. Master, don't worry. I won't touch the eternal peak." Hanju was speechless. "If you have the ability, go and fight for it. You don't have to give me face. Han Huang is my son, but I also think highly of you. I've known you for far longer than my children." Huang Zuantian was touched and knelt down again. Hanju said, "Take good care of Li Daokong and Shi Du Dao for me, but don't say that it's my intention." "I understand, master. Don't worry." Huang Zuantian immediately promised. The dream shattered. Hanju opened his eyes and sighed. Huang Zuantian, what a Huang Zuantian. He could actually reach this point by himself. Jiang Juesher's future was a Tao creator. Could Huang Zuantian also succeed? Hanju didn't use the derivation function. Regardless, Hanju would help him if Huang Zuantian had the ability. It didn't matter if there were more Tao creators. In any case, Hanju's goal was to become a creator lord. He could have as many people as he wanted as long as he was the best. Then, Hanju visited Shi Du Dao, Divine Lord Peacock, and Jing Tiangong in the image of the Dark Forbidden Lord. He encouraged them to not be disappointed. The Dark Forbidden Lord still had to stay. Before absolute invincibility, the Dark Forbidden Lord could help him do many things. Hanju suddenly had an idea. Should he visit Zhao Shuangquan, an Azure Heaven mystic in their dreams, and nurture them in the image of the Dark Forbidden Lord? In the end, he would ask them to target the Divine Might Heavenly Sage. What would the Tao Creator think? Hanju could pay the price first. When the two of them were stronger, he would say his true thoughts, and also check if there was a possibility of them becoming enemies. Anyway, they couldn't catch up to Hanju no matter how strong they were. This method is fine, but I feel that there's no need. Let's cultivate. Cultivation is the key. Hanju shook his head and laughed. Then, he entered his cultivation state. Tens of thousands of years later, Hanju passed his 11 millionth year birthday, but it didn't trigger the system's choice reward. This meant that the choice reward would be triggered every 10 million years in the future. Chapter 979 War of the Great Tao World Rules. Chapter 979 War of the Great Tao World Rules. Hanju had been in seclusion for 500,000 years. His cultivation level had increased greatly, and the ultimate origin chi in the primordial world had also increased. Some chaotic fiend celestials that were born very early began to attempt to create living beings in their own galaxies. They all failed, but at least they were trying. He had to use the great Tao of creation if he wanted to create living beings. The power of the 3,000 great Tao had already been condensed by Hanju. Only the chaotic fiend celestials needed to discover it themselves. As for the creation fiend celestial, it was not born yet. It was still a ball of fiend celestial chi. This fiend celestial belonged to the last batch of fiend celestial dharma idols that Hanju comprehended, so it was naturally late. Hanju looked at Han Ling beside him. This girl was already very close to the great Tao. When she broke through, 1,000,000 emperor soldiers would be terrifying. The primordial emperor star was very similar to the primordial fiend celestial. The stronger one's cultivation realm was, the more powerful they were. 1,000,000 great Tao sages, 10,000,000 great Tao supremes. This leap was simply ridiculous. Hanju began to look forward to the next heavens chosen. Wouldn't it be exciting when he gathered more than 100 heavens chosen? Hanju had a feeling that those Tao creators all had the power to nurture their own forces. The chaotic consciousness had the consciousnessless great Tao world, and so did the formless transcendent deity and the other two Tao creators. Perhaps there would be a war in the great Tao world one day. It was quite exciting to compete with the mighty figures and geniuses of the various worlds. Anyway, Hanju had to prepare for his primordial world. He would take drastic measures and directly move his disciples and descendants into his world when the primordial world transformed into the ultimate origin world, and he stepped into the Tao creator realm. The ultimate origin world was of a higher level than the primordial world. The spirit chi it contained was not something that the chaotic chi could compare to. From today onwards, it would be called the ultimate origin world. He would change the name in advance. Hanju thought silently. Then, he started checking his emails. Compared to before, his circle of friends did not change much. However, Tao's sovereign and the other three had obtained many opportunities. They were all related to the great Tao Providence Divine Authority. There were only 7 great Tao Providence Divine Authorities. Could these 4 guys occupy 4? Something was wrong. Could it be that the consciousnessless great Tao world also had the great Tao Providence Divine Authority? It was very likely. After all, the essence of the great Tao world was similar. With the 3,000 great Tao as the foundation, they would create their own rules of order. One could obtain the great Tao Providence Divine Authority with the supreme rules. Hanju stood up and walked out of the Taoist temple to visit Xinghangshan. Xinghangshan naturally missed Hanju after not seeing him for nearly 1,000,000 years. They began to chat after a few years. Are you bored staying here? It's fine if you want to go out for a walk. Do you want Linger to accompany you now that the heavenly Tao has changed greatly? Hanju asked with a smile. Xinghangshan shook her head. Forget it, it's meaningless. Besides, Linger is like you. She only knows how to cultivate. It's not bad for me to occasionally use my sage sense to observe the universe of stars. Many mortal races have already appeared in this universe. Some planets are even more lively. Liu Bei has done a good job. Hanju said. The chaotic assembly is happening in a little more than 3,000,000 years. Do you want to go and see it? Tuor, Huanger and Qinger will all participate. Xing Hongshuan's eyes lit up. Of course I'm going. My son is going to be at the Eternal Peak. As his mother, I will definitely support him. Eternal Peak? Not necessarily. There are geniuses stronger than him in the chaos. He's indeed the first in terms of potential, but there's still the matter of opportunities. Let's see if he can grasp them. I'll be very glad if he can obtain the Eternal Peak. Hanju smiled and didn't say anything else. Recently, many people with powerful backgrounds and fortuitous encounters had indeed appeared in the chaos. He would be disappointed if Han Huang could not suppress these geniuses as a primordial fiend celestial. However, he also felt that it was impossible if Han Huang wanted to win easily. There would definitely be a bitter battle. Xinghangshan was deep in thought. She suddenly asked, How's Linger's potential compared to Huang'er? Hanju said. In terms of potential, Huang'er is naturally stronger. What about strength? Compared to the same realm? Hard to say. Xing Hongshuan's beautiful eyes widened. That gentle Linger was so powerful? She suddenly thought of something and asked, Husband, did you do something? You even asked Han Yu and Huang'er to marry to produce offspring. This means that you can control the bloodline of your descendants. Hanju smiled. You're very smart, but you better not be too smart. Xing Hongxian knew that she had said something wrong. She covered her mouth and said, That's true. Trouble comes from the mouth. The less I know, the safer I'll be. Who knows if you transcendent existences can spy on what I'm thinking? She was not afraid of Hanju, but she was afraid that his enemies would use her to obtain information. I have to urge Huang'er, bring me to see him in 1,000,000 years. Sure. Hanju agreed. Although the chaos was huge, with his cultivation, he wouldn't be able to go anywhere for long. After chatting for a long time, Hanju left Xing Hongshuan's Taoist temple and went to find Qingwen'er and Xian Qingjun. They interacted for a few more years before he returned to the Taoist temple to continue cultivating 100,000 years later. Hanju opened his eyes and sent a dream to the ultimate god of punishment. The ultimate god of punishment had sent him a dream request tens of thousands of years ago, but he was busy cultivating and did not accept it. This was his rule. He couldn't visit dreams casually. It had to follow his seclusion cycle. In the dream, the ultimate god of punishment bowed and said, Master, the chaotic assembly is getting closer and closer. The location has yet to be decided. Hanju said, What locations have you chosen so far? 1. The void domain near the heavenly Tao and the 3 pure sacred world. No, it's too close. 2. The bottom of the chaos. I'll also make the resentful devils act as the genius's whetstones. Sure. 3. The great chaotic crack. It's a huge spatial crack located in the chaos northern domain. It's as long as 10,000 heavenly Tao chaotic heavenly roads combined. It contains no rules or order, and it also contains many opportunities left behind since ancient times. It's worth considering. The ultimate god listed them one by one. Hanju also began to think. If it was before, he would have let the ultimate god of punishment choose as he pleased. However, he felt that he should scheme now that the chaotic consciousness was in the mix. The ultimate god of punishment finally said, We can build a city at the bottom of the chaos if this location is picked. In the future, all the domains have to build a teleportation formation in this city to facilitate guarding the bottom of the chaos. I'm still worried about that place. Hanju said, Sure, but to the outside world, you have to say that you chose this place, understand? The ultimate god of punishment agreed and pondered. Could there be a terrifying existence at the bottom of the chaos that made the divine might heavenly sage afraid? He continued, Regarding the rules of the chaotic assembly, we have to confirm it. The number of geniuses participating in this event is immeasurable. The first round needs to eliminate a large number of people, but it's best if there are no huge casualties. Hanju asked, Just say it. You must have an idea. The ultimate god of punishment smiled and began to state the rules he had in mind. After a long while, after he finished speaking, Hanju thought for a moment and said, The beginning is fine, but the second last stage is a little ridiculous, right? The ultimate god of punishment smiled. We have to let them know that there's always someone stronger. Chapter 980 Not enough spots for the chaotic 10 absolutes. Chapter 980 Not enough spots for the chaotic 10 absolutes. Alright, that's settled. I'll leave the details to you. Hanju waved his hand. The ultimate god of punishment hurriedly agreed. The dream ended. Hanju was filled with anticipation. The chaotic assembly was meaningless to him. It was just for fun. After cultivating for 10 million years, it was time to be lively. This chaotic assembly was definitely the most lively event in history, and it was led by him. After thinking, Hanju began to cultivate. All sorts of rumors about the chaotic assembly began to spread in the next 10,000 years, causing the chaos to become lively again. Heavenly Court, in the desolate divine palace. Han Huang frowned. In front of him were Su Qi and Han Yu. Su Qi was here to speak for Zhao Shuangquan, and Han Yu was here to speak for Azure Heaven Mystic. The Azure Heaven Mystic represented the heavenly Tao. Ji Xianxian avoided suspicion. The other sages felt that they were useless, and let Han Yu come. Although Han Yu was the divine might heavenly sage's descendant, his master Li Daokong had already betrayed the hidden sect, so he was not a hidden sect disciple. Su Qi smiled and said, Junior Huang, you can reject it. It's fine. Han Yu nodded. Han Huang wanted to refuse, but this was the first time a fellow disciple had come to ask him for a favor. Su Qi was his senior, and Han Yu was his junior. As an ancestor, how could he reject a junior's request? Han Huang looked at Han Yu again, as if he was seeing his father. Forget it. All right, bring the two of them. I will definitely protect them, Han Huang said. Su Qi hurriedly said, No need. You only need to let them fight. They deserve it if they can't survive. Han Yu nodded. Han Huang was no longer the kid from back then. He still knew the basics of the world. He naturally understood that he had to take good care of them, Zhao Shuangquan, an Azure Heaven Mystic. They could be injured but they could not die. Su Qi and Han Yu quickly left after settling the matter. Han Huang found the evil Heavenly Emperor and told him about this. He didn't have the time to bring two geniuses around. He had to cultivate in seclusion most of the time, and naturally had to leave this matter to the evil Heavenly Emperor. The evil Heavenly Emperor immediately beamed. Zhao Shuangquan, Azure Heaven Mystic. I've heard of them. Good news. Han Huang rolled his eyes. He reminded him. These two are the Heavenly Tao's treasures. They can only follow the Heavenly Court for the time being. Nothing can happen to them, understand? The evil Heavenly Emperor smiled. I naturally understand, but I like prodigies. It's not like you don't know. Even if they can't serve me, it's a good thing to make friends. One more friend means one less potential enemy. Han Huang nodded in agreement. In the consciousnessless Great Tao world, in the endless desert, small springs fell to the ground like water droplets of different sizes. Tao's sovereign and the other three sat at the edge of the small springs far apart. Zhao Xianyuan looked up and shouted, Brothers, I'm about to break through a minor realm. Jiangyi said, He broke through long ago. Tao's sovereign said, Cultivation is nothing. I'm about to grasp the great Tao Providence divine authority. This time, the eternal peak is mine. Zhao Xianyuan smiled. Can you defeat Junior Huang? Also, Junior Tua is also very strong. He's one of the divine punishers. Now the 5 great divine punishers are genuine divine spirit experts. Tao's sovereign raised his eyebrows. Although that's the case, are you going to give in? Not to mention the eternal peak. If you really give in, I'm afraid even the chaotic 10 absolutes won't be enough. Our hidden sect has too many geniuses. Lao Dan rolled his eyes. How pretentious. He couldn't help but think of the 3 pure sacred world. Could there be a prodigy in the 3 pure sacred world? Jiangyi sighed. Han Tua, Han Huang, Jiang Juesher, the hidden sect's personal disciples and so on. To be honest, there are not enough spots. Zhao Xianyuan asked curiously, Are the Black Hell Chicken and the others also participating? Jiangyi said, I'm not sure. By the way, Sect Master gave birth to another daughter. She's also an innate great creation. I'm not sure what the ability is. If she also wants to participate, Zhao Xianyuan said in surprise. There are only 3 million years left. It's too late for her to participate, right? Jiangyi said, She's following Sect Master. This is impossible to predict. Have you forgotten Sect Master's experience? How strong was he after just a few million years? Zhao Xianyuan was silent. Tao's sovereign was the same. Lao Dan couldn't take it anymore and turned around, not wanting to listen anymore. A figure descended at this moment. It was the white-haired figure, the number 1 deity. The number 1 deity looked down at the 4 of them and said, 4 Tao weapons have appeared in the consciousnessless Great Tao world. They can perfectly fuse with the power of the Great Tao Providence divine authority. Do you want them? Tao's sovereign and the other 3 immediately looked up. 500,000 years later, Hanju opened his eyes and smiled. His cultivation had improved again. He directly began the simulation trial, and challenged the nine-headed divine spirit. He had secretly copied the latter's cultivation when the nine-headed divine spirit attacked the third Tao field. An hour later, Hanju looked regretful. What a powerful nine-headed divine spirit. However, Hanju could finally kill him. Such an expert was actually directly demoted to a mortal by the ninth chaos. What a waste. Hanju continued the simulation trial and challenged the nine-headed divine spirit. After dozens of times, he could kill the nine-headed divine spirit in 5 minutes. In the future, he would use the nine-headed divine spirit as a combat strength measurement unit. Hanju looked at Han Ling next. She had already attained the Great Tao, and her temperament was completely different. Sensing his gaze, Han Ling opened her eyes and smiled. Father, I broke through. I saw second brother at the door of the Great Tao. He protected me. Many Great Tao sages were present, but they all fled with their tails between their legs when they saw him. Second brother is really powerful. Han Ling was overjoyed at the mention of Han Huang. After all, your second brother is already a Great Tao Supreme. He's also considered top-notch in the chaos. Hanju smiled. Han Ling nodded. Father, let's spar again? I already have 1,000,000 emperor soldiers. Hanju immediately agreed upon seeing that she was a little proud. 3 breaths later, the battle ended. Han Ling was stunned. Hanju said, 1,000,000 emperor soldiers sound scary, but they don't know any mystical powers in the end. You might be able to unleash greater strength if they can form a formation. Han Ling woke up and asked, Father, what are the 3,000 Dharma idols you summoned? Could it be the 3,000 chaotic fiend celestials? She had also heard that her father was a chaotic fiend celestial, and there were 3,000 chaotic fiend celestials. Hanju smiled. This information can't be spread to others. Han Ling nodded and started to ponder over his words. Hanju also began to ponder. This girl's cultivation speed was not inferior to Han Huang's. Should he let her participate in the chaotic assembly? There were still 3 million years until the chaotic assembly. Even if she couldn't catch up to Han Huang, it was not hopeless to occupy a spot among the chaotic 10 absolutes. Hanju asked, Linger, do you want to participate in the chaotic assembly? Han Ling hurriedly shook her head. No. Hanju was surprised. Why? Won't I expose my strength? I want to be like you, secretly cultivating, so that no one can guess how strong I am. Han Ling said proudly. Chapter 981 Different Sword Tao River. Chapter 981 Different Sword Tao River. Hanju sized up his youngest daughter again. She was really like him, be it appearance or personality. Hanju suddenly felt that he had a successor. Han Huang had never given him such a feeling. I have to nurture her well. Linger will deal with them if the little fellows outside dare to rebel. Hanju smiled when he thought of this. Han Ling asked, Father, can you bring me to the chaotic assembly? Although I'm not participating, I also want to see the strength of the chaotic geniuses. Hanju nodded and brought his other wives and children to watch the battle. The father and daughter chatted for a while before Hanju started to check his emails. As the chaotic assembly approached, the battles in his circle of friends began to increase. Most of them were attacked and were rarely severely injured. They were probably sparring. Then, Hanju's gaze landed on the ultimate origin world in the depths of his soul. The first chaotic fiend celestial, the life fiend celestial, had already attained the Tao. The ultimate origin world was higher than the previous primordial chaos and chaos. There was no way to create living beings for the time being, even if the life fiend celestial attained the Tao. It couldn't figure out how to create them. It was mainly because it was ignorant. The reason why it wanted to create living beings was that it felt lonely. Hanju thought for a moment and sent a wisp of his will into the ultimate origin world. At this moment, the life fiend celestial was cultivating on a planet with an ocean, land, mountains, and trees. The life fiend celestial's body was larger than a mountain. Sitting in the mountains, every breath would stir up a terrifying peak and shake the forest. It was like a snake with 3 heads. The head in the middle looked like a man with fierce eyes and eyebrows. The heads on both sides looked like women. Its facial features were demonic, and its long hair fluttered. A figure emitting a dazzling divine light appeared in front of the Life Fiend Celestial's middle head. It was Hanju. The Life Fiend Celestial opened its eyes and stared at him. No battles occurred in the ultimate origin world for the time being, so the Life Fiend Celestial was not afraid. It was only puzzled. It couldn't sense Hanju's aura. Hanju smiled and asked, "What are you confused about?" The Life Fiend Celestial said, "I want to create existences like me. The more the better, but I can't succeed." It had to be said that the chaotic Fiend Celestial was extremely simple. Facing the mysterious Hanju, it also told him the truth. There was no suspicion, no killing, no jealousy. No concepts commonly found in society had formed yet. Hanju smiled and said, "I have a way. You need to use the power of creation." He began to guide the Life Fiend Celestial to comprehend the power of creation. The 3,000 Great Tao had already been formed. They were located above the ultimate origin world and could not reach the Great Tao. To the chaotic Fiend Celestials, the ultimate origin world was endless. However, such a huge world was filled with loneliness, making cultivation meaningless. Other than cultivating, most chaotic Fiend Celestials were in a daze. In their respective domains, they looked up at the same lonely ultimate origin universe. After a long while, Hanju quietly disappeared, and the Life Fiend Celestial fell into an epiphany. Hanju opened his eyes. He couldn't help but sigh. He didn't expect that he would have to personally push the development process. Currently, although the ultimate origin chi in the ultimate origin world was increasing, it was far inferior to 1% of the nebulous primordial chi. It still required a long time for the primordial world to completely transform into the ultimate origin world. What Hanju didn't lack the most now was time. He looked forward to the day when the ultimate origin world completely formed. He didn't know if he could become a Tao creator before that. Chaos Sword Tao River in the pale space-time. A river formed by sword chi flowed away, never to return. Dressed in a white robe, Li Daokong stood on the Sword Tao River. After millions of years, Li Daokong had become ancient. Many of his hair had turned white, but his eyes had become even sharper. With his hands behind his waist, his robes fluttered with the sword chi. A figure appeared in the distance, and also stood on the Sword Tao River. It was Laozi. Laozi stared at Li Daokong and said, "What a powerful Sword Tao will. You've just entered the Great Tao and actually have such strength." Li Daokong looked at him and said, "Grandmaster, long time no see." Laozi said calmly, "I'm not your grandmaster. You're already teacher's successor. In terms of seniority, we should be of the same generation." Li Daokong smiled and looked at the Sword Tao River below. "Grandmaster, this Sword Tao River is completely different from the Heavenly Tao's Sword Tao River. The endless sword chi seems to contain life. Could there be a different world inside?" Laozi's expression changed slightly. "You can feel it." Li Daokong raised his right hand, and the illusion of a golden river floated in his palm. He said, "This is the Sword Tao River I created. I feel that other than letting the living beings of the myriad worlds comprehend it, the Sword Tao River can also create living beings that belong to the Sword Tao. I tried and succeeded." Laozi was silent. Li Daokong clenched his right hand, and the golden river dissipated. He turned around and said, "Grandmaster, it seems that you have desires after all. There's actually another Heavenly Tao hidden in the Sword Tao River, an even stronger Heavenly Tao. No wonder your cultivation is so powerful. It can draw the power of all living beings' faith. Impressive." His figure turned into stars and dissipated without waiting for Laozi to answer. His last words echoed in the Sword Tao River. "Grandmaster, although you created the Sword Tao, I will surpass you. I will challenge you when I reach the Supreme Realm. At that time, it will not only be a battle between us, but also a battle between two Sword Tao rivers." Laozi did not stop Li Daokong from leaving. His gaze landed on the vast Sword Tao River below, and he muttered, "Sword Tao? That's just your narrow definition." In a huge palace, 2 rows of stone pillars surrounded by fire dragons illuminated the hall. Huang Zuantian sat at the head of the table. Dozens of steps below him stood existences emitting powerful auras, including Ancestor Shitian, Li Daokong, Sherdudao, Jing Tiangong and the others. The weakest was at the Freedom Realm. Huang Zuantian asked expressionlessly, "How's the situation?" A white-haired old Taoist was the first to speak. "Life Lord, there are more than 100 freedom cultivators and 7 great Tao sages in the 3 pure sacred world. They are not easy to deal with." The others replied, "Yes, Laozi of the 3 pure sacred world is one of the peak existences of the chaos. It's not only him. That heavenly sect master is not easy to deal with either. I've investigated. The prodigy nurtured by the 3 pure sacred world has inherited the teachings of the human, Jia, and Chan schools. It's said that Laozi even gave him a cultivation technique personally passed down by the Tao ancestor. That prodigy is indeed impressive. He will not be easy to deal with if he becomes one of the chaotic 10 absolutes and is promoted to a great Tao divine spirit. I suggest we attack before the chaotic assembly." Huang Zuantian pondered after hearing his subordinate's discussion. His right index finger tapped the armrest rhythmically. Ancestor Shitian took a step forward and said, "You have to deal with Laozi first if you want to deal with the 3 pure sacred world. Life Lord, think twice." Huang Zuantian leaned forward and smiled. "The 3 pure sacred world has to be controlled. As for how to deal with Laozi, I have a way. If Laozi is not in the 3 pure sacred world, can you be confident in flattening the 3 pure sacred world and seizing its lineage?" Chapter 982 Destruction of the Sacred World. Reincarnation of the Tao Ancestor. Chapter 982 Destruction of the Sacred World. Reincarnation of the Tao Ancestor. The 3 pure sacred world would be nothing without Laozi. A Calamity Life controller said loudly, completely disregarding the 3 pure sacred world. Li Daokong added, "I can deal with the heavenly sect master." The other life mighty figures spoke one after another, each choosing an opponent. In this way, in terms of high-end combat strength, the 3 pure sacred world was inferior to life. Ancestor Shitian stroked his beard and looked at Huang Zuantian. He did not say anything. He still trusted Huang Zuantian very much. The life faction started developing better and better ever since it was unified by Huang Zuantian. It was no longer a dark sect that everyone hated and could only hide from. It had become a famous major force. Ancestor Shitian felt inferior. Ancestor Shitian did not have much experience and ability to develop. He had only guarded the heavenly Tao in the past and had never interfered with its management. Huang Zuantian stood up and smiled. "The life faction has been lying low for a long time. It's time to show our sharpness. The heavenly Tao will definitely have no objections to destroying the 3 pure sacred world. We'll leave after destroying it and seizing its lineage. We can't stay in the 3 pure sacred world for long." "We obey Master's instructions." All life members immediately accepted the order. Time passed quickly. The spectators by the river felt that the water flowed very slowly, but the fish were very fast. Hanju opened his eyes. Another 500,000 years passed. He first entered the simulation trial and challenged the 9-headed divine spirit. He easily killed the 9-headed divine spirit in less than 5 minutes. He continued to challenge. After dozens of times, he reduced the time needed to kill the 9-headed divine spirit to 20 breaths. Not enough. It still took time to insta-kill the 9-headed divine spirit. As for the Tao creator, Hanju didn't have any designs for the time being. He probably had to wait for the ultimate origin world to completely form. Hanju looked at Hanling. This girl was still focused on cultivating. Her cultivation level kept increasing, making him feel that her cultivation speed was even faster than Han Huang's. Could it be his influence? After all, Han Huang did not follow him every day. After leaving the 3rd Tao field, Han Huang still had to fight with the evil heavenly emperor. This would also delay his cultivation time. No matter what, it was a good thing that Han Ling cultivated quickly. Hanju started to check his emails. He was shocked. They fought. Your good friend Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning was attacked by your good friend Shirdu Dao. Your good friend Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning was attacked. X49. Your good friend Li Daokong was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your good friend ancestor Shitian was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your good friend Laozi was attacked by your good friend Huang Zuantian. Your good friend Huang Zuantian was attacked by your good friend Laozi and was severely injured. Your good friend Laozi was cursed by a mysterious curse. His dermic powers are in chaos. Your good friend Jing Tiangong has cursed too much and caused too much karma. His soul has been damaged. Life and the three pure sacred world fought. There were many emails below. Clearly many years had passed since this battle. Hanju teleported to the main Dao field and looked at the three pure sacred world. The heavenly Dao was closer to the three pure sacred world. Hanju could see it at a glance. The once magnificent three pure sacred world no longer existed. The void was filled with ruins, corpses, broken islands, and so on. It was no longer lively. An extremely exaggerated spatial crack stood above the three pure sacred world, as if it had been slashed out by a sword. Hanju secretly deduced that the spatial crack was created by Li Daokong. The current Li Daokong was already a great Dao sage, and was extremely strong. As for the battle between Huang Zuantian and Laozi, he could not deduce it. He guessed that the two of them were fighting in a special domain. Hanju retracted his gaze and sighed. He did not expect Huang Zuantian to have already grown to this extent. Hanju thought for a moment, and came to the 33rd heaven, and landed in the Universal Hall. Heavenly Venerate Xian, Du was studying an 8 trigrams painting. He immediately stood up and bowed when he saw Hanju. Hanju was not interested in the 8 trigrams painting. He asked after sitting down, "How's the situation in the three pure sacred world?" Heavenly Venerate Xian Du replied, "There's nothing. The three pure sect leaders have already left this domain. After the Life faction snatched their resources, they also left one after another. In short, the heavenly Dao has also benefited. At least, there are no longer any obstacles and dangers in the three pure sacred world. I think that the Life Lord also guessed this. That's why he dared to attack the three pure sacred world. No force dared to attack the heavenly Dao in the current chaos. Not even life. Therefore, Heavenly Venerate Xian, Du didn't associate Huang Zuantian with Hanju." Hanju asked, "Did Laozi look for you?" Heavenly Venerate Xian Du shook his head. "I haven't contacted teacher for a long time." Hanju asked in his mind, "Is what Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said true? 90 million years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" "Continue. It's true." Hanju was satisfied. He had to be wary of him. Even if Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's favorability towards him was almost at its peak. Then, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du began to talk about the next development plan of the Heavenly Dao. With the destruction of the three pure sacred world, the Heavenly Dao would definitely devour its domain. Next, the Heavenly Dao would rapidly expand. In the domain under the Divine Robe Taoist, all the worlds had no choice but to befriend the Heavenly Dao. However, the Heavenly Dao still needed time if it wanted to truly dominate a region. The chaotic domain was extremely vast. The Heavenly Dao was like a drop in the ocean. At most, it was invincible in the region. Hanju left several hours later. He began to ponder after returning to the 3rd Dao field. This was not good. It would not be worth it if the Heavenly Dao developed too quickly and provoked the 9th chaos. Hanju had to think of a way to restrict the Heavenly Dao when it was about to develop to the domain level. Of course, it would be a different story if he could already easily control the 9th chaos at that time. If he could not, he could only restrict the Heavenly Dao. Hanju was not afraid. If he couldn't defeat the 9th chaos, he could hide in the Dao field, but not the Heavenly Dao. Just as Hanju was preparing to cultivate, detected bearer of Khanate Providence check its origin. Hanju was stunned. It had been a long time since he had seen this line of words. He immediately chose to check. Hongjun, one mystic divine origin, reincarnation of the Dao ancestor, innate great creation, Dao world divine spirit, unparalleled Dao fruit, creation providence reincarnation of the Dao ancestor. Hanju looked over and saw a handsome young Taoist flying at the edge of the universe of stars. At first glance, this Taoist was very ordinary. His dermic powers and his cultivation level were average. It was very difficult to believe that he was the reincarnation of the Dao ancestor. Why was this fellow here? Han Ju first thought of a conspiracy. Ordinary great Tao sages might not be able to deduce the relationship between the universe of stars and Han Ju, but great Tao supreme experts could. After all, this universe originally didn't exist. It was created by Han Ju using the method of transforming illusion into reality. Han Ju began to pay attention to Hong Jun. Hong Jun flew for a few days and found a star to stay. He attracted Liu Bei's attention. Liu Bei found Hong Jun. After interacting with him, Hong Jun actually became Liu Bei's disciple. Could this be the Tao ancestors' plan? Han Ju didn't tell Liu Bei. He wanted to see what Hong Jun was up to. Chapter 983 Number 1 Deities Great Tao Providence Divine Authority. Chapter 983 Number 1 Deities Great Tao Providence Divine Authority. Hong Jun's arrival didn't affect Han Ju's cultivation. Soon he entered seclusion again. He only had one goal now, to become a Tao creator. On the other side, Liu Bei was preaching to Hong Jun. Although there were living beings in the universe of stars, and he had also taken in disciples, and those living beings had intelligence, they had not encountered anything. Their comprehension of Tao techniques could not reach the threshold, and they weren't even interested in listening to the Tao. Hong Jun was different. He had wandered the chaos for tens of thousands of years, and was experienced. After becoming the disciple of a mighty figure, he was cautious, and did not dare to be distracted. Liu Bei was very satisfied with his attitude. He finally felt like a master. No wonder master liked to take in disciples so much. Liu Bei looked at the handsome Hong Jun and sighed. Unfortunately, I could still nurture him to participate in the chaotic assembly, if he came 10 million years earlier. Liu Bei suddenly felt a little regretful. He already understood Hong Jun's potential. He was definitely a prodigy. He would be very respected if he could gain fame in the chaotic assembly. Liu Bei smiled just by thinking about it. 500,000 years later, Han Ju was already 13 million years old. Not to mention the heavenly Tao. The chaos was already brand new. Han Ju glanced over. The void near the heavenly Tao was filled with cities, floating islands, and other buildings. It was the same in other domains. The chaos was considered peaceful under the great Tao divine spirit's supervision. The battle between the life faction and the three pure sacred world was nothing in the chaos. Han Ju estimated that the number of chaotic life forms had already increased by 100 times. A great Tao sage would be born almost every 10,000 years. As for the freedom sages, there were naturally even more. The chaotic assembly had reached its peak. Every chaotic domain had many geniuses. In this era of geniuses, the divine might heavenly sage had already become an ancient legend. Few living beings mentioned him. All sorts of rankings regarding geniuses had already spread in the chaos before the chaotic assembly began. Han Huang had already become a legend and was replaced by a new generation of geniuses. For example, in the heavenly court, the most famous was Zhao Shuangquan, an azure heaven mystic. They were called the two geniuses of the heavenly court. As more and more geniuses appeared, the chaos was also extremely lively. Even the great Tao door often gathered great Tao sages to exchange information. At the bottom of the chaos, the 10 absolute city, arranged by the ultimate god of punishment, had already been built. The news had also spread. The various factions knew that the chaotic assembly would begin at the bottom of the chaos, which also caused the bottom of the chaos to become lively. While Han Ju was observing the chaos, on the other side, in the consciousnessless great Tao world, Tao Sovereign and the other three had an imposing aura. They formed 4 terrifying pillars of qi that connected the world. The diameter kept increasing, as if the entire sky was splitting. The 4 of them were very far away from each other. The nearby spring water had already been sucked dry, leaving only pits of different sizes. Zhao Xianyuan opened his eyes and looked at his 3 companions. He smiled and said, "Brothers, I feel so strong. I'm already invincible among the great Tao sages." Jiang Yi snorted. "Then can you defeat me?" "Defeat you? Come on. I'm not afraid." The 2 of them stood up and prepared to fight. Tao Sovereign opened his eyes and said in a low voice, "What are you fighting for? Cultivate well. You will have plenty of opportunities to fight when the chaotic assembly begins." The two of them had no choice but to sit down again. Lao Dan sighed. The great Tao Providence Divine Authority is indeed powerful. Just the great Tao Providence Divine Authority of the consciousnessless great Tao world is already so powerful. Tao Sovereign, the divine authority you control comes from the chaos. It should be stronger, right? Tao Sovereign nodded. The power of the great Tao Providence Divine Authority is different. My great Tao Providence Divine Authority seems to be the opposite of the Divine Authority Generals. The Divine Authority Generals represent attack, while I am the ultimate defense. As for what it is, I will stun you when we fight in the chaotic assembly. Tao Sovereign revealed a proud expression. Lao Dan carefully sized him up and discovered that he was indeed different. His eyes contained a powerful force that made one's heart palpitate. You want to participate in the chaotic assembly? A voice sounded, and the number one deity appeared behind Lao Dan. Lao Dan was secretly shocked. So fast. He did not sense it at all. The white fur on the number one deity's face had already fallen off. Although there was still a lot of white fur on his body, he was already becoming more and more like a human. His lower body was also changing and looked deformed for the time being. Tao Sovereign looked at him and asked, "Can't we? This is our long-time plan." The number one deity said, "The chaotic assembly will be held at the bottom of the chaos. It's the closest to the consciousnessless great Tao world. If you can take the lead in the chaotic assembly, and even command all the geniuses, this will be a chance for the consciousnessless great Tao world to rise." Tao Sovereign frowned. It's not easy to lead the chaotic prodigies. It might not work even if you obtain the title of Eternal Peak. Besides, according to you, the chaos and the consciousnessless great Tao world can't fuse. They are opposing existences. How can the chaotic prodigies help the consciousnessless great Tao world? The number one deity replied, I have a way to turn the chaotic prodigy into a consciousnessless prodigy. The chaos is temporarily ownerless, after the chaotic will disappeared. Its creator is busy cultivating. Previously, he probably lost a lot of his origin when he revived all the living beings in the chaos. Not to mention 10 million years. He won't come out of seclusion, even in 1 billion years. He won't make a move as long as the chaos is not destroyed. He's extremely conceited. This is our opportunity, and also the opportunity of the consciousnessless great Tao world, and the heavenly Tao. Zhao Xianyuan and Jiang Yi looked at each other, and did not say anything. They left it to Tao Sovereign to deal with. Tao Sovereign said in a low voice, We will consider it. The number one deity said, You mentioned the divine authority generals just now. The consciousnessless great Tao world also has a similar great Tao providence divine authority, and it's the strongest great Tao providence divine authority. I've already learned it before you came. Do you want to see it? With that said, Tao Sovereign and the other three became interested. Zhao Xianyuan urged him to show it quickly. The number one deity flew into the sky and slowly raised his arms. Boom! The ground shook violently as terrifying auras emerged from the ground like countless volcanoes erupting. Tao Sovereign and the other three were shocked. With a loud sound, a black figure broke through the ground and flew into the sky. The four of them looked over. It was a black figure. His figure seemed to be covered in armor. He was burly and domineering, emitting a terrifying aura. The moment he stopped, the surrounding space began to distort, forming a terrifying and strange scene. Tao Sovereign and the other three frowned. Zhao Xianyuan muttered, What a powerful aura. It definitely surpasses the great Tao Sage realm. It's even stronger than the divine authority generals back then. Jiang Yi frowned. The divine authority generals are powerful in terms of numbers. 20,000. With that, figures broke out from the ground and rushed into the sky like black arrows. The number one deity looked down at the vast scene gathered below and said, The chaos already has divine authority generals. Thus, I'll give them the position of destruction authority generals. There are as many as 20,000 chaotic divine authorities, while I have as many as 100,000 destruction authority generals. More and more destruction authority generals will be born as I become stronger. 100,000 is not the limit. Chapter 984 Chaos. Chapter 984 Chaos. 100,000 Destruction Authority Generals. Dao Sovereign, and the other 3 were moved. Just one made them shiver. How strong were 100,000 Destruction Authority Generals? They were filled with fear. At first, they worked with the number 1 deity, because he was stupid. However, as time passed, they could no longer see through him. Now they discovered that their strength was far inferior to the number 1 deity. This was not good. The power of the Destruction Authority Generals that filled the sky formed a darkness that covered the sky and the earth. Oppressive and terrifying, the number 1 deity looked at Dao Sovereign. I have such power. If you can rope in the geniuses of the chaos, you will definitely be able to overturn the chaos in the future. I promise that after overturning the chaos, the consciousnessless great Tao world, and the heavenly Tao will definitely not be enemies. You're still the realm lords of the consciousnessless great Tao world. I want the consciousnessless great Tao world to obtain freedom and cultivate in peace. I don't care about power, but the chaos suppressed the consciousnessless great Tao world, causing my cultivation to be severely obstructed. I'm the first living being in the consciousnessless great Tao world. My fate is closely related to it. The number 1 deity's tone was very calm, but in his opinion, he was already extremely sincere. Zhao Xingyuan spread his hands and smiled. You're right. We think so too. Call back these Destruction Authority Generals first. He pretended to be calm, but was sweating internally. The number 1 deity immediately waved his hand. All the Destruction Authority Generals burrowed underground again and disappeared, leaving only dust in the sky. The number 1 deity exchanged pleasantries with them before leaving. After his aura completely vanished, Zhao Xinyuan heaved a sigh of relief and muttered, "This fellow is becoming more and more unfathomable." Dao Sovereign's expression was solemn. He wondered if his ultimate defense had a chance of winning against 100,000 Destruction Authority Generals. Jiang Yi snorted. I keep feeling that he has ill intentions. Lao Dan smiled. No matter what, we are his saviors. He has never hurt us, and even gave us such a huge opportunity. He did not think so, but he was afraid that the number 1 deity would hear him. So he deliberately said good things. Dao Sovereign sat down and said, Continue cultivating. We both control the great Tao Providence Divine Authority. We can't be left behind. Zhao Xuanyuan's expression turned ugly when he thought of the 100,000 Destruction Authority Generals. He thought that he had already become extremely strong, but he was way too inferior compared to the number 1 deity. He shivered just thinking about being surrounded by 100,000 Destruction Authority Generals at this moment. He suddenly thought of his master, Hanju. What was Hanju's mentality when he faced 20,000 Divine Authority Generals? Sigh. He wondered how strong his master was now. Zhao Xinyuan fell into a daze. Hanju started to check his emails after observing the chaos. He discovered that Dao Sovereign and the other 3 appeared the most. They were all about opportunities. It seemed that they were really about to soar. Apart from Dao Sovereign and the other 3, Han Tua, Han Huang, Jiang Juesher, Han Yu, Qin Ling, and the other descendants and disciples also began to frequently obtain opportunities and increase their cultivation. Hanju thought for a moment and teleported to the second Dao field. Dao Comprehension Sword and Li Yao were very happy to see him and immediately surrounded him. However, Hanju didn't chat with them. He quickly gathered all the Fiend Celestials in front of the Taoist temple. Regarding the chaotic assembly, does anyone want to participate? Hanju asked. Since it was a banquet he organized, he would naturally make it bigger. Guan Bubi was the first to speak. I want to participate. The other Fiend Celestials agreed and looked excited. They had become warlike after becoming chaotic Fiend Celestials. It was indeed boring to stay in the Tao field all day. Hanju smiled. Those who want to go out, raise your hands. I'll send you out now. With that said, most of the chaotic Fiend Celestials raised their hands. They couldn't hold it in anymore. Hanju sent them out, leaving only the Black Hell Chicken, the chaotic Heavenly Dog, the Crimson Fox, and the Tao Field Guard Dongjua. Li Yao and Tao Comprehension Sword did not want to go out, either. Hanju looked at the Black Hell Chicken and asked, Aren't you going out? You're the only one who has never left the Tao field. Now that I've already gone out, aren't you going? The current black hell chicken was like a black phoenix. It was extremely handsome and stood as tall as an adult. What's the point of going out? My cultivation level can still increase. There's no need to go out. The black hell chicken said proudly. The chaotic heavenly dog followed suit. Hanju smiled. Should I send you back to the 100-peak immortal river and find you a black hell phoenix to marry? No, no. The black hell chicken hurriedly shook its head. The chaotic heavenly dog said, Master, it had such thoughts before, but it was dumped, so it made up its mind not to find a Tao companion anymore. Hanju raised his eyebrows. Such a story had happened in the 100-peak immortal river? The black hell chicken said angrily, What are you shouting for? Who gave you the right to speak? The chaotic heavenly dog could only shut up. Hanju looked at the crimson fox next. Chapter 10-12 Breakthrough Tao Creator. Chapter 10-12 Breakthrough, Tao Creator. Then preach the Tao to me. My cultivation has not improved at all in the past million years, Fairy Shixian muttered. Hanju nodded, but he felt inexplicably disappointed inside. He began to preach the Tao, and Fairy Shixian listened carefully. This lecture lasted for 1,000 years. Hanju quietly left after Fairy Shixian broke through a minor realm. Then, he directly immersed himself in cultivation after returning to the third Tao field. He had a feeling that he was already close to becoming a Tao creator. He yearned for this true undying and indestructible realm. Furthermore, the Tao creator realm was not his ultimate goal. 10,000 years passed. The universe of stars in the third Tao field became filled with life, and the cultivation wind also flourished. It was just like the immortal world back then. In the blink of an eye, another 5 million years passed. Detected that you are 30 million years old, and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Establish the primordial chaos in the chaos. You can obtain a primordial fragment, a great Tao fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a heavenly Tao spirit stone. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner, and maintain your original intention. You can obtain a primordial fragment, a great Tao fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a supreme treasure. You have obtained a creation heaven's chosen attempt. It was similar to when he was 20 million years old, but there was an additional supreme treasure in the second option. Hanju silently chose the second option. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner and maintain your original intention. You obtained a primordial fragment, a great Tao fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a supreme treasure. You have obtained the ultimate Tao treasure, world-piercing divine origin Bao. World-piercing divine origin Bao. Ultimate Tao treasure, born from the ultimate origin Qi. It contains the power to shatter the great Tao world, and can recognize a soul as its owner. The owner is not allowed to use other ultimate Tao treasures in the future. Ultimate Tao treasure, not bad, not bad. It was very powerful to be able to shatter the great Tao world. However, the last note made him dissatisfied. This uniqueness did not suit him. He would keep it for now. It didn't matter if he used it or not. With his strength, it was not difficult to destroy a great Tao world, as long as no Tao creator stopped him. Hanju didn't take out his Dharma treasure, but continued cultivating. The Tao creator realm was right in front of him. At this moment, the entire ultimate origin Qi was red. Countless galaxies were dotted in this sea of ultimate origin Qi, and were extremely stable. The ultimate origin world began to produce living beings on its own, surprising the chaotic fiend celestials, who wanted to create living beings but failed. Sensing that he was about to break through, Hanju said, Linger, go out for a while. Han Ling was stunned. After so many years, this was the first time her father had asked her to go out. She didn't ask further, and immediately stood up to leave. Hanju was the only one left in the Taoist temple. A red pattern appeared between his eyebrows, as if his flesh had been torn apart. A black and red ball of light flew out. Ultimate origin world. The black and red ball of light began to condense and become real. Hanju held it in his palm, and continued to comprehend it. The great Tao world was about to be completed. The Tao creator realm was right in front of him. All these years of comprehension allowed him to know what the transcendent rule was. Every great Tao world had its transcendent rule. This rule contained the truths of the 3,000 great Tao and the profundity of the autonomous great Tao world. It could allow any existence to be born and also eliminate the unstable elements in the great Tao world. It was almost omnipotent. This was the divine rule of creation. Han Ju would be able to enter the Tao creator realm that he had yearned for a long time, when the divine rule of creation of the ultimate origin world completely condensed and controlled it before fusing with him. It seemed very close, but it still needed some time. Nearly 100,000 years later, the divine rule of creation was successfully condensed. 1,000,000 years later, the divine rule of creation controlled the ultimate origin world and connected to the 3,000 great Tao. 500,000 years later, Han Ju fused with the divine rule of creation. He began to break through. 100,000 years later, Han Ju successfully broke through. His dharmic powers began to undergo a qualitative change. It was the same for his body and soul. This transformation process took 100,000 years. Han Ju was in a sublime state. His consciousness covered the entire ultimate origin world. Although the ultimate origin world was not as big as the chaos, it was already very vast. Everything in every corner of the world entered his vision. In an instant, he could pay attention to countless corners at the same time. This vision was extremely magical. It was not as simple as multitasking, but doing trillions of things at once. Han Ju's control over the ultimate origin world far exceeded before with the divine rule of creation's help. It was as if the ultimate origin world had become a part of his dharmic powers. He could change everything in the ultimate origin world with a thought. No wonder the ninth chaos could easily revive all living beings in the chaos. After a certain period of time, Han Ju opened his eyes. His body had already transformed into the ultimate origin Qi, like a red and black shadow. Detected that you have broken through to the Tao creator realm. You have the following choices. 1. Place the ultimate origin world in a blank domain. You can obtain 5 creation heavens chosen attempts. 2. Keep a low profile and continue to hide the ultimate origin world in your soul. You can obtain a supreme treasure. That's it. Han Ju was very disappointed, but the first option was too dangerous. He might be suppressed by the ninth chaos if he took it out. Perhaps he could already resist the ninth chaos. But if that was the case, there would be endless trouble. How could he cultivate? As for the creation heavens chosen, he could rely on time to accumulate more. Han Ju silently chose the second option. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner and obtained a supreme treasure. You have obtained the ultimate supreme treasure, Supreme Tao Heavenly Wheel of Creation. Supreme Tao Heavenly Wheel of Creation, ultimate supreme treasure. It can attack and defend at the same time. It contains the strongest defense known to exist. It is indestructible and can devour the power of karma. Awesome. Ultimate supreme treasure. Han Ju's heart beat faster. He had made a killing. The strongest defense sounded impressive. Han Ju didn't take out this supreme treasure. Instead, he began to consolidate his cultivation and checked his attributes panel. Name: Han Ju. Lifespan: 31,800,128/12, 199, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999 octillion 999 septillion 999 sextillion 999 quintillion 999 quadrillion 999 trillion 999 billion 999,999,999. Race: Ultimate origin Fiend Celestial. Immeasurable Emperor. Cultivation: Early stage Tao Creator Perfect Sage. Technique: Primordial Chaos Reincarnation Great Tao. Heavenly Cycle Body Tempering Great Tao of Life and Death, Great Tao of Karma, Great Tao of Extreme Origin Constitution, Extreme Tao Ultimate Origin Body. His lifespan was so long. How satisfying. Han Ju couldn't be bothered to calculate how many years there were. He only knew that he could live for a long time. This was the lifespan of his origin. Even if he only had a year of normal lifespan left, Hanju could use the rules of time to extend this year indefinitely, as if he could live forever. The meaning of origin lifespan was karma. Many methods could hurt it. Hanju's cultivation finally stabilized after 50,000 years. After consolidating his cultivation, the first thing Hanju did was challenge the formless transcendent deity. As for those sword Tao mystical powers, he couldn't be bothered to improve them. He could dominate everything with the divine might great heaven palm, the ultimate origin heaven seal, and the ultimate origin soul oblivion. Indeed, instant kill. There was no doubt about it. In the same realm, there was no reason for Hanju to lose to the formless transcendent deity. However, this was only a simulation trial. It could only determine his victory. In reality, the Tao creator was undying. The Tao creator was eternal if the divine rule of creation was not destroyed. Only the master of the great Tao world could sense its existence, and it could be separated from the great Tao world, so it was impossible to target. Thank you for reading on mybox novel. Com. Chapter 1013 New Era. Chapter 1013 New Era. Hanju kept simulating the trial. He challenged 10 formless transcendent deities at once. It was barely enough. It had to be said that the formless transcendent deity was indeed powerful. The mysterious power's restriction was extremely strong. Unfortunately, it couldn't break through Hanju's defense. He took out the supreme Tao heavenly wheel of creation and started to make it recognize him as its owner. This ultimate supreme treasure was a golden wheel that could change size freely. After all, it was an ultimate supreme treasure. Hanju spent 1,000 years just refining it to recognize him as its master. If not for him becoming a Tao creator, the time would probably have been 100 or 1,000 times longer. After recognizing him as its master, the supreme Tao heavenly wheel emitted a dazzling golden light and flew behind him. It was very imposing. Hanju sized himself up and was very satisfied with his current appearance. He called Hanling back into the Taoist temple after hiding the ultimate origin world in the depths of his soul. Hanling hurriedly asked after she entered, "Father, you broke through? What realm are you at now?" Hanju said, "It's just a small breakthrough. It's still the great Tao supreme realm." Hanling nodded. Breaking through to the Tao creator realm did not cause much of a commotion. With the Tao field isolated, the living beings in the chaos could not sense it. The level of the living beings in the Tao field was too low and could not sense the aura of the Tao creator. Just like when the ninth chaos appeared, Hanju couldn't even see him. Hanju didn't say anything else and started to check his emails. He had not read emails for so many years and did not know what his circle of friends was like. Your good friend Huang Zuantian has comprehended a supreme mystical power. His providence has increased greatly. Your good friend, the ultimate god of punishment, was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your son Han Huang has entered the consciousness-less great Tao world. Your good friend Li Daokong established a world. Your disciple Tao Sovereign was attacked by demons, X1039982222. Your disciple, your grand disciple Morongqi has fused with the great Tao of war and stepped into the extraordinary realm. Your good friend Pango has revived. Your disciple Jiang Juesher has entered the chaotic crack. There were many opportunities and attacks. However, from the opportunities and maps involved, they had all grown. Hanju was very glad that he was not the only one growing. After reading the emails, he pondered if he should go out for a walk. In any case, the next breakthrough would definitely take more than 30 million years. He didn't care about decades. However, he had to think about how to deal with the divine rule of creation before leaving. Other than placing it in the ultimate origin world, he could also split it up and hide it in different places to ensure that he would not die. He could leave a wisp of each of the 3 Tao fields and find a place in the chaos to leave a wisp. The blank domain was also a good choice. The divine rule of creation was extremely powerful. The normal operation of the ultimate origin world would not be affected, even if he split it into 100 million portions. After making up his mind, Hanju directly used his will to control the 3 wisps of the divine rule of creation to be placed into 3 Tao fields. He stood up and asked, I want to go out for a walk. Do you want to go? Han Ling was stunned. She hurriedly stood up and said, I'll follow wherever father goes. Han Ju smiled and nodded. Wait for a few decades. I have to accompany your mothers first. Qin Ling had no objections and sat down again. 80 years later, Han Ju brought Han Ling to the heavenly Tao. The two of them suppressed their cultivation. The cultivation of the heavenly Tao was not as high as theirs, so it was naturally easy for them to enter. The heavenly Tao could only resist chaotic existences that were not much stronger than it. Back then, the Holy Mother of Order had destroyed the heavenly Tao with a flip of her hand. That was still vivid in everyone's mind. Han Ju didn't alarm the heavenly Tao sages, as he brought Han Ling around the immortal world. Outside the 33rd heaven, in the Universal Hall, more than 1,000 heavenly Tao sages stayed here. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du sat at the head of the table and faced all the sages. The scene was quite spectacular. The heavenly Tao had changed drastically after more than 20 million years. There were more than 2 great Tao sages alone, and 1/5 of them were freedom sages. The scale of the heavenly Tao also doubled, causing every heavenly Tao sage to have a territory to manage. However, the Divine Might Heavenly Sage didn't appear for a long time. The new sages had never seen Han Ju, and he was already regarded as a legend. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du knew how to behave. Every time he held the sage meeting, he would always leave a map beside him. It was Han Ju's location, and told the new sages that the Divine Might Heavenly Sage was still around. Qiu Shilai snorted. The Panga race has reunited, and the news has even spread to the heavenly Tao. Giant God Pangu probably has other thoughts. Pan Xian smiled. Indeed. After all, the heavenly Tao is so powerful, but the current heavenly Tao can't return to him. The Tao ancestor also can't even if he revives. However, he's our ancestor after all. We can't lose our etiquette. In the past million years, Panga had wantonly created worlds and living beings. It was unknown if these living beings were lucky, or it was on purpose. But they began to visit the heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao was open to trade, and had always been open to chaotic life forms. The other sages also expressed their opinions. They were almost all wary of Pangu. Most of them were living beings born after the heavenly Tao restarted. They didn't have a deep impression of Pangu. In their understanding, the creation god was the Divine Might Heavenly Sage. If not for the Divine Might Heavenly Sage, the heavenly Tao would have perished several times. After chatting about Pangu, Fong Liang said, recently, the conflict between the Han family and the Flying Heaven sect has been intensifying. This matter has to be resolved to prevent a huge problem. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du asked, what's Han Yanjin's attitude? Fong Liang said, he's in seclusion. The current family head doesn't want to let this go. Although this matter was caused by the younger generation, the price the Han family paid was too heavy. He won't be able to face his clansmen if he lets this go. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du frowned. The Flying Heaven sect has produced many geniuses including sages. We can't disappoint them, Zhang Guxing added. With that said, more than 10 sages nodded and looked at him gratefully. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate said in a strange tone. Are there too few geniuses in the Han family? They've hundreds of Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals. Furthermore, the Han family has many branches. They will also be a considerable force if they join forces. The new sages were silent. The forces involved were powerful. They didn't dare to interrupt rashly to avoid offending their seniors. Heavenly Venerate Wufa said, no matter what, this matter has to be settled to prevent it from affecting the situation in the immortal world. Why don't we sages take out some treasures to make up for it, and let them resolve their karma? Longhao said, my junior Han has a strong personality. He said that he wants to see the sect master of the Flying Heaven sect, and make it clear in person. I'm afraid the matter will intensify if the sages interfere. Ji Xianxian said, then let them meet. Didn't the Flying Heaven sect master call himself a hero of the heavenly Tao? Doesn't he have the guts to meet the other party? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du frowned even more. Clearly, this was not only a battle between the Han family and the Flying Heaven sect, but also a battle between two factions. The Flying Heaven sect was jointly established by the second-generation sages. It had a 20-million-year history and a deep foundation. It controlled thousands of mortal worlds, so it was naturally arrogant. Although the Han family was related to the Divine Might Heavenly Sage, there was more than one Han family among the Divine Might Heavenly Sage's descendants. The Flying Heaven sect's reputation would be severely damaged if they lowered their heads every time Hanju was mentioned. Thank you for reading on mybox novel. Com. Chapter 1014 Ultimate Killing Star. Chapter 1014 Ultimate Killing Star. The older generation of sages opposed each other and argued endlessly. As time passed, the new sages also began to take sides. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du felt a headache. He missed the atmosphere when the Divine Might Heavenly Sage presided over the Heavenly Tao. Who dared to say they were anxious under the Divine Might Heavenly Sage's eyes? However, as time passed, the Divine Might Heavenly Sage's image in his mind inexplicably became blurry. He couldn't even remember his true name. In the end, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, "Let the Flying Heaven sect master and the head of the Han family meet at the peak of Buzhou Divine Mountain. Sage Hanyu, you have to go personally to prevent chaos." Hanyu nodded. Speaking of which, the Han family's master was of the same generation as him, but the difference in cultivation between the two was too great. They had never met. The expressions of the sages changed slightly. They felt that Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was biased towards the Han family. But facing Hanyu, they did not dare to act recklessly. Although Hanyu was a calm person, his grand disciple Qin Ling was not to be trifled with. He had a fiery personality. A sage once spoke ill of Hanyu. Qin Ling immediately hunted him down when he heard of it. A sage would have died if not for the older generation standing up. After this matter was settled, another sage mentioned another important matter. This was the Universal Hall. Once the sages gathered, it would definitely take a long time to settle things. The mountains undulated and the red sun hung above the mountains and rivers. Hanju and Han Ling walked in the forest. The forest here was sparse and many cultivators were coming and going. They were all facing one direction. Hanju and his daughter were like transcendent immortals, so they naturally attracted a lot of attention. However, no one came to cause trouble for the time being. Han Ling asked, "Father, the aura ahead is not strong. It's even inferior to some of the cultivators coming and going. Could it be a scam?" Hanju smiled. "What does it have to do with us? Just take it as joining in the fun. Let's go." The father and daughter went up the mountain and stopped at a stone pavilion. This mountain was majestic, and one could look down on the nearby mountains and rivers. From here, he could see a Taoist temple located halfway up a mountain. In front of the temple was a dam platform with dozens of cultivators sitting. There were also cultivators in the nearby mountains. It was a spectacular scene. Hanju waited for the immortal to preach the Tao while preparing to use the creation heavens chosen. He had already accumulated the creation heavens chosen twice. It was time to use it once. Activating the creation heavens chosen. A random great creation will appear among your descendants. Your descendant Han Yi has awakened an innate great creation ultimate killing star. Ultimate killing star. Born with the soul of the killing star. He is arrogant by nature. The more he kills, the stronger his cultivation. He cannot tolerate any providence of heaven and earth. Ultimate killing star? Hanju was secretly curious. He began to deduce Han Yi. This fellow was not Han Yunjin's descendant, but Han Yu's. Their bloodlines were thousands of generations apart, and had already deviated from the main family. He was born in a village in the mortal world. His parents were farmers, and he did not know the origins of his ancestors. Hanyu was only 2 years old, and was undergoing a great change. Hanju asked in his mind, between the ultimate killing star and the primordial emperor star, who is stronger? It is hard to compare innate great creations. Hanju was interested in Han Yi. He decided to visit him in a few years. Several years was a very short time for Hanju. In the wilderness, a youth with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes walked as if he was flying. In front of him was a wild boar that was taller than an adult. "Bastard! You've invaded my garden. Where are you running? The youth leaped and landed on the wild boar's back. He waved his small fist. Boom! The wild boar instantly fell to the ground. Its fat head smashed into the ground, and the sound of bones breaking could be heard. Blood splattered everywhere. The youth was not appeased and continued to punch. The wild boar quickly died. He stood up and grinned. Then, he carried the wild boar back to his house. The difference in size between the two was huge, and visually shocking. After returning to the village, the youth threw the wild boar at the entrance, attracting the attention of the villagers. Hanyi is really powerful. TSK, the power of a 9-year-old is so terrifying. It's like a devil master descending from the heavens. Well done. This wild boar deserves to die. Ha ha ha, Hanyi, can you share the meat? TSK, I killed a huge worm last time. This time, I killed a wild boar as big as a carriage. It's too ferocious. Hanyi placed his hands on his hips and laughed. You can all split up the meat. Send the right thigh to my house. With that, he rushed towards the mountain on the left of the village. He was like an ape in the forest, quickly traveling. He arrived at a valley after traveling for more than 10 kilometers. The entrance of the valley was covered in vines and weeds. At first glance, it was very difficult to find a path here. Hanyi rushed in directly. After entering the mountain pass, there was a small wooden house. In front of the wooden house was a lake with green waves. A young man and woman were fishing in front of the lake. The woman was as beautiful as a flower, and could cause the downfall of a city. The man was even more handsome, and had a more immortal aura than the woman. Hanyi approached them and said excitedly, Immortal Masters, I killed a very big wild boar today. Didn't you see that the wild boar was as big as this wooden house? I killed it with 3 punches and 2 kicks. Hanju glanced at him and smiled. Has your strength increased? Hanyi nodded excitedly and clenched his fists. Immortal Masters, the luck technique you taught me is too powerful. My strength actually increased after killing the wild boar. Hanling frowned, but did not say anything. Hanju smiled and asked, You came to tell us this? Hanyi scratched his head and chuckled. Immortal Masters, I want to kill more evil beasts to increase my strength, but there are too few evil worms in the forest within 100 miles. What should I do? All you know is to kill. You're so fierce at such a young age. Hanling scolded him, scaring Hanyi. He had known this pair of immortal masters for half a month. He was most afraid of Hanling, because she had never given him a good attitude. Hanyi looked at Hanju pitifully. Although he was only 9 years old, Hanyi looked about 13 or 14 years old. His appearance was not at all similar to Hanju, but he indeed had his bloodline. Hanju smiled and said, I'll teach you a fist technique. You don't have to kill them to increase your strength. Go back and cultivate for a few months. Come and find us when you master the technique. Then, he raised his hand and pointed without waiting for him to answer. Hanyi trembled and immediately fell into a daze. He had already returned home when he woke up. A memory appeared in his mind. He worshipped Hanju even more. He was really an immortal master. In the valley, Hanling asked in confusion, Father, do you like him so much? Hanju smiled. Can't I? Although he's a descendant of our bloodline, the difference in seniority is too great. He's like a stranger to us. Furthermore, this child is violent by nature. I can't see any good in him. Hanling shook her head. Hanju thought to himself. It seemed that the chosen ones couldn't sense each other. Hanling could sense Jiang Juesher's great creation, because the primordial emperor star was superior. Hanju smiled and said, Although he enjoys killing, he's still very good to the village. How can the path of cultivation not have killing sins? You haven't experienced it, and that's because we're here. If not for me, you would have to fight with others just for a safe place to cultivate. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 10:15 Divine Light Flashing in the Heavenly Tao. Chapter 10:15 Divine Light Flashing in the Heavenly Tao. Hanling fell silent. She felt that it made sense, but she still didn't like Hanyi. His potential is average. Why do you have to take care of him like this? Hanling asked. Hanyi had yet to start cultivating. What Han Ju taught were all body tempering techniques. The ultimate killing star was not as bright as the primordial emperor star. The primordial emperor star was outstanding from the beginning. However, the ultimate killing star was different. It needed to be tempered by killing. The more he killed, the stronger Han Yi became. He would probably be the strongest when he killed all living beings. Such potential was actually a threat to Han Ju. But he was not afraid. In terms of threat, anyone could grow up. However, he could never be threatened with the primordial heavenly prison and his cultivation attitude. Han Yi was different from the other children. He was a creation heaven's chosen. Only one had appeared after 10 million years of accumulation. Han Ju naturally had to meet every one of them and build his foundation in advance. Otherwise, it would probably be troublesome if he became stronger in the future and didn't acknowledge the ancestor. How to rope them in was to help these chosen ones attain the Tao when they were insignificant. This way, others could say that it was all thanks to the divine might heavenly sage when they rose in the future. They wouldn't think they were the chosen ones. His potential is extraordinary. You will understand in the future, Han Ju said meaningfully. Han Ling curled her lips and said, his soul is indeed extraordinary, but it's too weak. He's considered a genius in the mortal world. But he's still a mortal in the eyes of the great Tao. How can he compare to me? Was this girl jealous? It was not like this usually. Han Ju smiled and didn't say anything else. Han Ling snorted. She wanted to see how high Han Ye's achievements were. The father and daughter continued fishing. This was Han Ju's recent hobby. He didn't use his dermic powers and mystical powers to compete in fishing. Han Ling also liked it because she could defeat her father. Several months later, Han Yi arrived and said excitedly, Immortal Master, I've already learned it. I'll show it to you. He walked in front of Han Ju and started to punch. His punches were fierce and his muscles and bones roared like leopards. He had the aura of a human-shaped ferocious beast. Han Ling was disdainful, but she did not mock him directly. After all, the other party was still a child. Han Ju smiled and nodded. Not bad, not bad. You will definitely become a dragon or phoenix in the future. Yeah, do you have a goal for the future? What kind of person do you want to become? The word year was extremely gentle. Han Yi was even more excited, but he also became more obedient. He scratched his head and said, I don't know either, but I want to become stronger than anyone. Han Ju smiled and asked, Then do you want to be stronger than me? Han Yi chuckled. Of course. But don't worry. You treat me well. I'll protect you after I'm stronger than you in the future. Han Ling couldn't help but laugh at him. Brat, do you know who he is? Han Ling secretly felt good. Han Ju smiled and said, Do you know about cultivators? Although you know some moves, you're still inferior to those cultivators. I'm not a true immortal and can't teach you much. Han Yi nodded. I know. 2 years ago, a cultivator passed by and turned stone into gold. He made the blind date in the village extremely excited. I've long told father that when I grow up, I'll marry and have children. I'll pursue the path of cultivation after I leave them with him. I can also reward them with longevity and wealth if I can attain the Tao before the two of them die of old age. A look of anticipation appeared on his face. Han Ju smiled and nodded. Han Ling snorted. You're really cheerful. You can even give up your filial duty to your son. Han Yi was born proud. He didn't dare to offend Han Ling before, but he didn't allow her to mock him like this. What about you? How much have you done? Han Yi asked mockingly. Han Ling said, I've always accompanied my father since I was born. She suddenly realized that she had only received her father's protection and had not been filial. Han Yi said disdainfully, Then why did you leave your father now? Han Ling frowned. I've never left him. You really know how to. Han Yi started cursing, but then he suddenly stopped. Could it be? He stared harder. He couldn't help but look at Han Ju and saw him nodding with a smile. Speechless, Han Yi asked, Immortal Master, how old are you? He thought that Han Ju and Han Ling were husband and wife, and looked about the same age. Han Ju smiled and said, Since you're here, you must have something to ask of me. However, I have nothing to teach you anymore. Han Yi panicked. He couldn't be bothered to be surprised by Han Ju's age. He knelt down and started to kowtow. Hanju didn't stop him. He should kowtow. Hanju took out a bow when Hanye's forehead turned red. Then, a cold light appeared and illuminated the sky. Even the 33rd heaven shook, startling the sages out of seclusion. Hanju quickly suppressed the world-piercing divine origin bow and placed many restrictions on it. Hanling stared at the world-piercing divine origin bow with her beautiful eyes burning. What a domineering Dharma treasure. She wanted it. Father. Hanling was about to speak when she was interrupted. Hanju stared at Hanyi and asked, Yealer, do you like this bow? Hanyi looked up and was instantly stunned by the world-piercing divine origin bow. He nodded desperately. Hanling pouted in anger and turned her head away. Hanju threw the world-piercing divine origin bow to the ground and said, This bow is yours, but you have to take it yourself. Hanyi hurriedly went forward and grabbed the bow. His expression changed. He couldn't hold it. He tried his best. His face turned red, but he still could not lift it. Hanju stood up and said, Year, we're leaving. When we meet again, the world will definitely change. Perhaps you won't remember my appearance. Hanyi looked up and asked anxiously, Immortal Master, where are you going? Life has its own parting. You have your own path, and I have my own Tao. After a few months of fate, this bow will accompany you for life. Remember, never give this treasure to others. With that, Hanju waved his sleeve and disappeared with Hanling. The valley became quiet. This immortal method stunned Hanyi. He asked loudly when he came back to his senses, Immortal Master, what's your name? I can repay you in the future. Unfortunately, he did not receive any reply. Hanju and Hanling rode on the clouds. Hanling said unhappily, How can you give such a treasure to that brat? Besides, if we give it to him, why don't we accept him and bring him around to cultivate? Aren't you afraid that others will snatch it? Hanju smiled. No. He could tell that Hanling was dissatisfied, but he did not explain. Hanling would not hate him for this. Time would prove his actions, and would definitely surprise her. Hanju still had one more creation heaven's chosen attempt. He thought for a moment and decided to use it. The arrival of the two heavens chosen would definitely cause a huge commotion in the heavenly Tao. Hanju silently chose to activate the creation heavens chosen. Activating the creation heavens chosen, a random great creation will appear among your descendants. Your descendant Han Yao has awakened an innate great creation conquest heavenly star. Conquest heavenly star. Born with the Tao of conquest. He will fight all his life and never stop fighting. He can conquer all rules, karma, providence, and so on to increase his chi of conquest. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1016 Creation Will. Chapter 1016 Creation Will Conquest Heavenly Star. It looked so impressive. Hanju discovered that the three heavens chosen great creations all ended with star. Could it be related to his stellar primordial body? Were these creations derived from the stars of the ultimate origin world? Hanju began to deduce Han Yao. Han Yao was a descendant of Li Yao's son, Han Yunjin. He was born in the main Han family in the immortal world. His starting point was much higher than Han Ye's. He didn't have to treat Han Yao like how he treated Han Yi. Han Yi started from nothing and needed someone to lead him to cultivate. However, Han Yao was different. He was born rich, and it was not difficult for him to embark on the path of cultivation. Hanju only needed to recruit him to cultivate beside him when he grew up and nurture him openly. Han Yi Han Yao. Hanju thought of something and couldn't help but smile. Hanling asked, Father, what are you thinking? Hanju smiled and said, The Han family has another good seedling. Hanling's face darkened. Hanju laughed and continued to travel the world with her. Immortal world Buzhou Mountain. All the forces gathered here. The entire mountain was filled with cultivators of various races. There were countless of them. Two figures faced each other on the peak of the mountain. One was the sect master of the Flying Heaven sect, and the other was the master of the Han family. In the distance, Hanyu sat under an old tree and watched quietly. The Han family and the Flying Heaven sect disciples watched from the sky outside the mountain peak. Both sides were on high alert and extremely nervous. The Flying Heaven sect master was the first to speak. Fellow Taoist Han, the beginning of this karma lies with your Han family disciples. Could it be that you want the disciples of the heavenly sect to swallow their anger? The Han family's master snorted. It's indeed because of my Han family's disciples, but your disciples can just teach them a lesson. Why do you have to be so ruthless? On. The sect master of the Flying Heaven sect said, how can I teach you a lesson? You destroyed my disciples' opportunity. Such a situation is irreconcilable in the cultivation world. Why is your Han family so powerful? Then in the cultivation world, there's still a need to seek revenge. If you fight the young, the old will attack. Why should your Flying Heaven sect ask the sages for help? Besides, that opportunity didn't belong to your disciple in the first place. At that time, no one knew the exact situation. A group of juniors fought for the opportunity. Your disciple lost the opportunity, so you blame my Han family disciples? The Han family's master mocked, causing the atmosphere to instantly freeze. The Flying Heaven sect master's expression instantly turned cold, his eyes filled with killing intent. The head of the Han family was not afraid. The disdain on his face deepened. Han, you had no choice but to say, the two of you, it's time to resolve the problem. Tell me, what are your conditions for you to give up? Hearing this, the Han family's master had no choice but to restrain his expression and give the sages of the same generation face. The two mighty figures of the immortal world began to bargain. At the same time, halfway up Buzhou Mountain, Han Ju and Han Ling were also watching. Han Ling sighed. Our Han family is really domineering. Han Ju smiled and said, it's difficult to determine karma. He did not plan to interfere in this matter. The Han family was already powerful enough. Not to mention, Han Yu, Han Tua, Han Huang, Han Qing'er, and the others could also be there backing as he watched the commotion. Han Ju asked in his mind, I want to know the origin of the system now. He could understand the origin of the system, as long as he became a Tao creator. Han Ju had already guessed it, so he was not anxious about this answer. At his level, he still couldn't sense the existence of the system. That could only mean one thing. The system was unrelated to the Nine Chaos, and was only related to the primordial fiend Celestial, who had once created the primordial chaos. That primordial fiend Celestial was the oldest existence known. Do you want to trace the origin of the system? Please choose carefully. Why was it so scary? He even had to choose cautiously. Will I die? No. Will it cause substantial damage to me? No. Han Ju was speechless. He silently chose to continue. Boom! Han Ju's thoughts entered the illusion. A purple light dispersed the darkness, forcing him to open his eyes. He discovered that he had arrived in a void filled with countless purple chi. An extremely huge sun illuminated the void in the distance. He could even feel the heat. Han Ju narrowed his eyes and saw a figure hidden in the huge sun. This was the primordial chaos, so only the primordial fiend Celestial could be in the sun. Sun, you're finally here. An indifferent tone floated over. Han Ju asked, Primordial fiend Celestial? The indifferent voice replied, no, like you, the primordial fiend Celestial is only a successor, but he died on the path of inheritance. Han Ju was moved. It was not the primordial fiend Celestial? What was that? Then who are you? Han Ju asked in a low voice. He felt inexplicably uneasy. This was an instinctive feeling when facing the unknown. My existence has no name. If you insist on giving me a name, I am the will that creates everything. Creation will? The indifferent voice sounded again. There was nothing in the beginning, not even imagination, until the creation appeared. I'm not sure how it appeared. It created a world. As the world formed, I was also born. However, this world was too tiny. I wanted to help it grow, but I couldn't interfere in its creation. I could only transform my will into a great opportunity and enter the world. Dozens of existences obtained me before the primordial fiend Celestial was born. Unfortunately, they failed. The primordial fiend Celestial is the first half-successful person. With my help, he created the primordial chaos, but he couldn't improve anymore. However, he created the primordial life forms before he died. An existence among the primordial life forms created the chaos. I have assisted countless existences after the primordial fiend celestial in the endless years. The number far exceeds your imagination. There are also my inheritors in the 9 great chaos. They all failed. The strongest has only reached the great Tao Supreme Realm. Most of them fell into eternal damnation because of their arrogance. Until I met you, I existed in the way you liked, and helped you become stronger. You are different from other living beings. With my help, you were invincible, but you had always been cautious. If you could avoid karma, you would never provoke it. If you provoked it, you would definitely eliminate it completely. Therefore you became a Tao creator. Hanju frowned and asked, since you are the creation will, your goal is for me to help all of this develop better? Is this my fate? Hanju was thinking when countless images suddenly appeared in front of him. Some inheritors were born rich and arrogant. They died under the siege of powerful enemies. An inheritor was born alone. He liked to kill, and attracted the backlash of the rules. Some inheritors were born poor and cultivated cautiously. After attaining the Tao, they felt invincible and acted recklessly. They were suppressed by mighty figures. Some inheritors relied on great opportunities to interact with people with great providence. They had immense power, but they fell into endless trouble, and were finally killed because their disciples turned against them. Some inheritors were as cautious as Hanju. They would ask about the risks when they encountered opportunities. As their cultivation level reached the great Tao Supreme Realm, they felt that they were invincible in the chaos and acted arrogantly. As time passed, they forgot to ask about the risks. The 9th chaos sensed that they became a Tao creator and killed them. Thank you for reading on my box novel. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.